What is going on, guys? Are you tired of seeing my face yet? 3 days in a row. 3 days in a row. I gotta wonder whether or not you guys are tired of seeing my face yet at this point. I'm getting on a little bit late because I did just finish leg day with the kids. Legs and abs today. Leg day with the kids. So my daughter is very good at the pole vault and the hurdles and the long jump. So we got to keep those legs strong. Let's see who's here. With these extra streams, I'm getting a little bit scared to check whether or not anybody has showed up. Christina wins. Christina number 1. Ichiro, right? What is it? Ichiban? Ichiban? Is that number 1? I don't know what I'm talking about. I know Ichiro's a baseball player. What's up, TOG? Haven't seen you in a while. Pants off, definitely not here. Don't see pants off at all. That sounds strange. Mike, another live show. That's what I'm saying. Are you tired of seeing my face yet, Mike? Are you tired of seeing my face yet? What's going on, Lynn? What's going on, Robert? All right. Kay, what's going on, Kay? All right. I'm a little bit tired. I'm not gonna lie. It's Friday. I'm glad you guys made it to Friday with me. We made it this far, guys. 'Tis the weekend. Don't forget to hydrate or dehydrate, depending on how you wish to spend your Friday night. Okay. Woo. All right. So, what do we got tonight? Like I said, these extra streams are mostly to catch up on videos that I never get to. And I make myself play Civ while doing these live streams so that way I can play longer videos and not... Because I've obviously got something to say to every single thing that happens in a video. Yes. That's me. So, we've got Andrew Callaghan. We got... what's up, T. Freeman? We got Andrew Callaghan. What's up, Dolly? And he went on the Doomscroll podcast and had some really interesting things to say about right-wing radicalization. And Andrew has a good background for this because Andrew spent quite a bit of time making a documentary about a MAGA supporter named Kelly. And we'll get into it in a minute, and we'll let him talk about it a little bit. But one of the reasons that I'm here... It's not a Titus show, Mike. Titus is tomorrow, Mike. Tomorrow we'll do Titus. Andrew, or one of the reasons I get on here and have been doing this is because I believe one of the tools of right-wing radicalization is mass psychosis. And I've been saying this for years now. I believe that we're seeing right now the use of mass psychosis with the tariffs on, tariffs off. If you don't understand what mass psychosis is, obviously it's psychosis on a much more massive scale. And there's a video that we can watch at one point and it explains it really well. But to kind of dumb it down, to reduce it, it's the idea that if you put people through large amounts of adversity and panic and anxiety, and then bring them into periods of calm, and then back into these times where they don't feel like they can be stable, like things are okay, that they're consistent, and you do that over and over again, it causes people to be easier and easier to manipulate. And I found during COVID that it seemed like many people during that time were affected by mass psychosis. And my job as a leader in my store was to be the level-headed person, to be the solid person. Sometimes not to be level-headed, but to be the person that stands up for people within my environment. Because those people needed consistency. They needed somebody to know that was there, that they could go to, that would have their back, right? So I learned during COVID about how mass psychosis manipulates people. And as we came out of mass psychosis, as we came out of COVID, I felt like Trump and many people like Trump used that period of time and the mass psychosis that it brought on to manipulate people. And I believe that they still use that tool to today. And I don't know if Donald Trump is doing it on purpose or not, but the theme of tariffs on, tariffs off, you don't know anything about what's going on with the weather. You don't know anything about what's going on with diseases. Like there's a massive whooping cough breakout right now. There's a big measles breakout right now. There is a huge E. coli breakout. And people haven't been hearing about any of these things because of the budgets being cut on all these places, right? So I feel like in some ways they're creating this atmosphere where you feel like everything's okay, and then you find out it's not, and then you feel like everything's okay, and then he turns the tariffs on, then he turns the tariffs off, and you're like, oh, phew, all right, well, the stock market's going back up, oh, okay, and then it's turning back off, or turning back on, and boom, it flies down again. Oh my God, it's going on again. I feel like, whether or not it's being done on purpose or not, that once again, we are teetering on this edge of people being affected by mass psychosis. And I feel like it's important for me to be on here more often, providing people with my point of view on these things, because just like during COVID, I felt like I was capable of providing people with consistency and saying, I know things are bad. I know things are hard. I know that right now things are not consistent or stable, but we're going to be okay. Like, we're going to get through this one way or another. I'm not letting them win. I'm not letting them beat me, and I'm not letting them beat you. And I think it's really, really important that people keep a stable, consistent mental. Because when you break down, when you lose it, they've won. When you become exhausted, when you become apathetic, they've won. And I can't allow that to happen to me or to the people that I care about. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this. And that's why today we wanted to get on here and watch the Andrew Callaghan video, because I think rather than constantly watching news and constantly inundating yourself with what's happening in the world with Trump, sometimes you need to take a step back and you need to ask yourself why these things are happening. So yesterday, we watched the video from Gary's Economics, and that video explained very well, in my opinion, what tariffs were, why they don't make sense here, what proportionate tax, regressive tax, and progressive taxes are, and why tariffs are regressive taxes. And once again, I think that that's education defeats fear, right? The antidote to fear is education. So instead of getting on here and just repeatedly watching videos of Trump and what Trump's doing and what Trump is, what is the flavor of the day, tariffs on, tariffs off, instead I feel like it's more important to get on here and watch videos about what is causing these things to happen, specifically not just to Trump, but also to the people that follow him. And I think that we can have the days, Saturday and Wednesday, that we set aside where we get on and we talk about all the things that are going on. And obviously, we'll talk about the goings on. But I don't want to fucking clockwork orange you guys with Donald Trump videos, because I think that's bad for your mental health. Instead, I want you guys, and myself included, to feel like we're taking a more cerebral approach to this, and we're learning more about the causes of these things, so that way when we do encounter them, we understand the why and the how. And so I hope you guys enjoy these extra videos that I'm doing. And if it's not for you, I understand, but this is what we're going to do with these videos. It's not going to be a 24/7 lose your mind, freak out, the world's burning stream. I can't do that. I won't do that. And I don't think it's healthy for you guys. I think that you shouldn't either. This stream also will not be a 24/7 look at other left-wing content creators and hate watch them and talk shit about them. On occasion, I will make fun of Jank. On occasion, I will make fun of Bill Maher. You will get your little bit from that. But this isn't going to be like every one of these other left-wing content streams that I watch, where these people do nothing but tear down other left-wing content creators. I refuse to do that. When someone deserves to be called out, I will do so. But until I feel it's necessary, we're not going to do that either. We're not going to do that. Mr. Straight Facts is live too. I got to get Mr. Straight Facts on here. What's up, Jeremy? What's going on, Jeremy? What's up, He Hurts? I think I said hi, Lynn, but I'm going to say it again. Hi, Lynn. All right. And don't forget, what's up, Starman? Don't forget, I appreciate you guys going over and check out Mr. Straight Facts stream. So, I ain't going to hate. I'm all about the support. Check out Mr. Straight Facts stream. Go say hi to him. Tell him you love him. Tell him you support him. Tell him you appreciate him. I'll be over here. If you guys want to pop in and out, I appreciate you guys for being here the little bit that you are. So thank you so much for being here. And let's get to the show. Let's jump on down. Let's push buttons and try not to mess things up. There we go. That's a weird blurry screen. It's okay. We can fix that. Boom! Look at us go. All right, guys. So this video is Andrew Callaghan on Doomscroll, which is a podcast talking about right-wing radicalization, and his theory on why he thinks that these people get so sucked into this crazy cult of Donald Trump. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Obviously, I'll be pausing and giving my two thoughts, but I'm going to try to let it play as much as possible. That's why I put a game on the screen for my ADHD ass to concentrate on. And we're going to let him talk, and I swear to God, I'll probably pause this video like 10 seconds in. All right, let's listen to it.
You're not going to believe what Andrew Callaghan said. Andrew Callaghan spills the beans.
I see no problem with that at all.
Okay, man, I just had to tell somebody. You're the first person that told Mike. That. At the Million MAGA March, which is like the proto-January 6th gathering, and dudes were trying to go live on Facebook and instantly getting their channels taken down.
Right.
So that's like their Tiananmen Square moment. You know what I mean? Where they're like, we must be telling the truth because they are removing our shit from the internet. All these late night TV shows basically being like anti-Trump programming, that's reaching the living rooms of a lot of Trump supporters. Yeah. So imagine your Facebook's taken away. You turn on the TV and it's Jimmy Kimmel being like, and the orange asshole said this today. You're like, everything is fucking against him. Like, this is crazy. And that's the thing is like, some liberals are so annoying that you become a conservative just by sheer, just by that.
So if you don't know Andrew, Andrew's a very liberal person, but he speaks very honestly about some of the problems that happen within the Liberal Party. And one of the reasons I like listening to Andrew is because I don't disagree a lot with him, but there's some things that I disagree with. But what I really like is he says some things that people don't want to say because they're afraid to say it because they're afraid to get kicked out of the party. And as I've said multiple times on this stream, I'm not in a party, so I'm not afraid to get kicked out of the party. So, he's going to say some things that you're going to be like, well, hold on. I don't know if I like this individual. And I'm going to tell you, you need to sit back, be patient, and listen for what you agree with. And when you don't agree with something, that's totally okay. You shouldn't agree with everything anybody says.
Because you're like, God, I don't want to be whatever that guy is, bro.
Whatever they are, I'm the opposite. Yeah.
No, but like real shit. And I've never said this on a podcast. Well, 1 week after getting canceled.
Welcome to Doomscroll. I'm your host, Joshua Citarella. My guest is Andrew Callaghan, a filmmaker, a documentarian, and the host of Channel.
What is up with people in the Lex Friedman style podcast opening? Hi, I am the Angry Ginger, and today, what we have for you is Andrew Callaghan and his opinions on what is wrong with the left and what is wrong with the right.
Channel 5. You mentioned at the beginning of the film that you had a why that you wanted to answer from your previous work, This Place Rules.
Yeah.
Tell me about this why.
The why is kind of like the pipeline between like how does a regular, otherwise normal person fall like really deep down the, in particular, conservative QAnon rabbit hole to the point where it like takes full control of their life and alienates them from their family. And I think I looked for easy solutions with the HBO thing. Like, oh, they're consuming this media source, or they're buying T-shirts from Enrique Tarrio, and they're like, wrapped up in this economy or in information economy too.
Yeah.
But I think that what I learned through Kelly is that a lot of times, like a traumatic family situation or like a chaotic.
And just so you guys know, so he has a documentary about a Trump supporter named Kelly, and he'll talk a little bit about him in a second. But if you guys are interested in watching it, you can go and find it. I forgot what it's called. He'll probably say what it is. But it is a documentary that I'm very much interested in watching, and I'm going to watch. Did I see the crazy ad about Congress and taxes? No, I have not. Alan, if you are in Discord, you should share them in Discord. I tell you guys all the time, the chances that I will actually look up something while I'm on stream are very low, because if I do, I will get distracted, I will go down a rabbit hole, and I will not finish this video. So you guys, if you're in Discord, please share the videos in Discord, because I do click on those videos and I do look at them. So please do share them in Discord. Manny, what's up, Manny? Also, hi, Alan. Making some late dinner after intermittent fasting. Dude, I intermittent fast every day. Every day, Manny. Every day. I love when they started talking about intermittent fasting, because I was like, hey, that's just how I already eat.
Or catastrophic economic event oftentimes precedes that jump. So with Kelly, like, he lost his home shortly after the financial crisis because he took a loan from a guy who then seized the home as an asset when he couldn't pay back this $100K loan. And then for 3 or 4 years, his life was a revenge quest against this lender named Bill. And then that kind of doesn't work.
Okay,
Trump comes around and presents this like good versus.
I have to show you guys who he's talking about. This is a video. Oh God, I didn't know that. I had no idea that there is actually going to be actual White Lives Matters videos. Look, see, this is what I'm saying. Now I'm going to go down the goddamn rabbit hole. Okay, so this is him. The guy in the thumbnail is Kelly. I did a video on this a long time ago. Okay, I can't play the start of this because it's actually really bad to play the start of this. So this is Kelly right here. This is the guy he's talking about. The guy with the Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president. Okay, so you guys ready for this?
Bryant, how many people know that? They assassinated Kobe Bryant. How many people know that? They
assassinated Kobe Bryant. This is the guy he's talking about in this interview.
Assassinated Kobe Bryant. They tried to kill Tiger Woods in that car accident recently.
Why?
The Kobe Bryant deal is that he had dirt on the Clintons. I love black people. I love everybody. We're all God's children.
It's hard.
It's a White Lives Matter rally?
Well, I'll tell you what, this whole thing with the virus, with BLM, with Antifa, that was to hurt President Trump. And the reason that President Trump wasn't back by January 20th, the reason he hasn't been back yet, is because he didn't want to have civil war. I think you know where I was on January 6th.
Where were you?
I think you know where I was on January 6th.
I think
Trump
I know
is
where
still
he was.
in control of our country.
Where'd you get those shoes from? Those are pretty fresh.
Those are just champion, being a champion for the Lord. That's it.
Amen. It's good for you. See, there's nothing anti-white supremacist about that. That's not a white supremacist message.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
What's the most painful piece of truth that's hurt you?
Guy stealing my home. He falsified a trustee's deed to himself with 7 false representations on it and stole my home. His name's Bill Joyner. He lives in Shady Canyon. He destroyed my family, destroyed my 25-year business, separated and devastated my family. So that answers your question.
This dude sounds like he sucks.
I don't think he's a good guy. In my opinion, he's a bad guy and he's hurt a lot of people. But then again, look what the Democrats are doing to others. The deep.
So this is what he's talking about. When he talks about Kelly, and he talks about this guy legit lost his home. So what he's saying is that each one of these MAGA supporters, and many of us have MAGA supporters in our families, so maybe this in some way you can make this connection. He's saying that each one of these people have some type of traumatic instance that has led them to being broken, to looking for, a shepherd, looking for somebody to help them. And so he did a documentary on that gentleman right there, Kelly, and that's what he's discussing right now in this part of this interview is how he got radicalized. This Kelly guy how he feels he got radicalized.
Crisis because he took a loan from a guy who then seized the home as an asset when he couldn't pay back this $100K loan. And then for 3 or 4 years, his life was a revenge quest against this lender named Bill. And then that kind of doesn't work. Trump comes around and presents this like good versus evil spiritual warfare framework, and he was able to blend his personal tragedy and vendetta with like a grander spiritual one.
One of the things that I really appreciated about the early part of the film is that You propose, I think you call it Andrew's theory of radicalization.
Yeah.
What is Andrew's theory of radicalization?
Well, I mean, okay, so I said this and I thought I was like kind of a genius when I thought about it. But then, so my theory was that the 3 core needs are security, significance, and connection.
Right.
Turns out there's actually a guy named Maslow who said something very similar. And it's called the hierarchy of needs.
Right.
I think it's like the first like course you take in college. So
And
everyone's like,
for
this
people,
guy's biting
for people who haven't
Maslow.
heard of that, what Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
I don't even know.
Oh.
I mean, as soon as I said this is my theory, everyone's like, bro, nice try. You just ripped off Maslow. And I'm like, what? I don't even know if he's alive, but if you're watching, my bad. I didn't even know about that. Anyways.
Okay, so Manny says, yeah, but the thing is that a lot of us have been through way more adversity, but we also attempt to remedy it and not lash out in the most hateful ways. Yeah, so this in no way is excusing his behavior, right? So this is a problem that I encounter, and I'm not saying you're doing it right now, Manny, but I do encounter with people on the left, is that at times I'll try to explain what I think is something that is wrong with people that have led them to become MAGA supporters, and people will say, well, that's no excuse. Whatever they're doing, they're still fucking terrible people. And I go, I know, chill. Now you're attacking me for no reason, and I'm on your side. Once again, I'm not saying you, Manny. I'm saying I'm using this as a moment to explain something that does happen at times. So you're right. Adversity should not break you. But I think one of the problems in America is that we don't experience enough adversity. And then when it does happen, then people break. So, somebody like myself, well, I come from a very adversity ridden life, right? Like my whole life as a child was, survival. Like I didn't know where I was going to eat next. Sometimes I had to steal food. I didn't know if I was going to get jumped and beat up. I didn't know, I watched my mom get beat up in my front room by the woman that she left me with, because my mom left me like 2 extra days with this lady named Cookie. Okay. I've seen a lot of bad shit in my life. So adversity for me, I don't expect it to break me because I've dealt with it for so long in my life. I've been taken from my mom. I've been homeless. I've lived under bridges. I've eaten out of trash cans. Like my life up until I met my wife, until I moved out of the neighborhood, until I got here was I experienced adversity all the time. And what I think is that a lot of Americans don't experience adversity in those levels, which is a good thing. But when they do experience adversity at those levels, they tend to break. So kind of what Manny is saying there, right, is that most of us are capable of coming across adversity, dealing with it, and then, recognizing, oh, okay, I'm going to push that aside. I'm going to move on with my life and I'm going to get things done. And, if we have to come back and deal with that, then we will. But that's kind of like what we're dealing with now. And that's why I say that I pop on here to make sure that I'm always being that stable person for people, is because if you're feeling that way, if you haven't dealt with that kind of adversity before and now you're starting to feel that way, well, I want to be here so that way you can talk to me and I can give you, my advice. I can, even if I'm not giving you advice, just be a shoulder to lean on, because I know that people, whether they be left or right or whatever, can break. And the most important thing, in my opinion, for left-wing individuals right now is that they do not break. They do not grow exhausted. They do not allow the bullshit to get to them, because we need clear-minded, logically thinking people that are out protesting, that are making solid arguments, that are talking to people, that are setting the example. That's what we need right now. And what we don't need is a bunch of people breaking and becoming like Kelly or becoming like MAGA, because then we have all the problems from within that we have to deal with, right? So I just like what you said right there, Manny. That was pretty spot on, because 100%, as an adult ass human being, we should all be capable of dealing with adversity and then not allowing it to harm others because we broke. That's the most important thing to me as a leader, is always realizing that my decisions affect other people, and if I allow myself to get out of control, then other people are going to get hurt, right? So, yeah, that's a really good point, though, Manny.
This all goes back to like the Flat Earth Conference back in 2019, which is like my first kind of like right-wing conspiracy event. And I know those are pretty typically overused buzzwords, but it's fair to call the Flat Earth a conspiracy as opposed to like a disclosure movement.
Sure.
Would you say?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right. I want to make sure I'm not punching down.
I was debating whether I wanted to make a shithead joke.
No. So when I was there, I'd like interview flat earthers, and like everybody that I talked to, most of the people in the comment section of the video, I'd be like, oh my God, this is my uncle. He hasn't been the same since that workplace accident. Or like, this is my cousin. I haven't seen him in 4.5 years. Like, he started smoking.
I like that he says workplace accident too, because somebody the other day was asking me if I'd let my kid play football. And I was like, nah, I love football. Football is my favorite sport. I played when I was younger, not in high school or anything like that, in the ghetto. We play 11-on-11 with no pads, and we just go at it. And I love football. I enjoy football, but I'd never let my kids play football. CTE, I've seen too much with CTE. You know, Junior Seau, when he took his own life, like he blasted himself in the chest with a shotgun because he wanted science to be able to look at his brain. And I was saying that to the person, you know, like I've seen too much, like Titus Young. I've seen so many people that were normal enough people that after playing football for a pretty long time completely changed. Antonio Brown is a great example of it. Look at Antonio Brown of the Steelers, the wide receiver. If you look up a video from now, he's a garbage human being. If you look at Antonio Brown before he got hit and knocked unconscious by Vontaze Burfict, I think it happened twice, but at least 3 times Antonio Brown had head injuries, and then he went on to do just crazy shit. And so I was like, nah, I don't think I would. And the guy who was asking me was like, yeah, actually, we used to have a friend, and he was like the nicest person, super good dude, and then he fell off of a deck and hit his head. And after that, he was the biggest asshole. He was engaged to this woman. He had a fiance, and he was just a complete asshole to that lady from that point on. And then somebody else brought up how there's that story about the guy who was like a completely normal dude, and then he started like doing weird shit with his stepdaughters. I don't remember if his daughters or his stepdaughters, and they thought that he was harming them. And I think it was the wife said like they wanted him to be looked at because he's acting weird, and they look and he had a brain tumor. And they cut the brain tumor out, and when the brain tumor was cut out, he went back to being a normal person again. And none of the same shit, started acting normal, and then he started acting weird again, and they checked, and you know, they noticed that the tumor had grown back. And so I really like that he says that about, you know, he's like, oh, my uncle had, you know, a workplace injury, because that's another thing that we need to take into mind when we're looking at certain people and trying to determine whether or not they're worth our time to like change their minds. Because some people, you're not going to change their mind, and that's not because legit they're just a cult member that like believes, you know, 100% in everything Donald Trump says. Some of these people have brain tumors. That wasn't originally my argument, but it snuck its way in there. I just solved it all. They got brain tumors. Anyways, you guys know what I'm saying. Like, I think it's really important to know who you're dealing with. Are you dealing with the Charlie Kirks of the world? That's a fucking grifter. He's never changing his mind. He changes his mind, he loses all the money from his audience capture, right? Are you dealing with a person who's been beaten in the head multiple times, probably not changing their mind? That's a brain injury, okay? Now, are you dealing with, let's say, a left-wing individual that has gone MAGA because they're like, but look, when you look at things, man, like the whole Laken Riley thing, you can't tell me that that's not bad. We shouldn't have these people in our country. Those are the people that you can talk to, because you can say to them, well, hold on. If a white person steals something, do all white people steal stuff? If a black person, you know, runs his car into somebody drunk driving, do all black people drunk drive and run their cars into people? Because if that's not true, then not all immigrants do what that man did, which was a heinous crime. Like, that's what I'm saying is why you gotta watch videos like this. That's why you have to think about these things. It's because you can't just have a one-size-fits-all attitude towards problems that are as complicated as what we're dealing with today.
Looking at this high-grade weed and the schizophrenic symptoms came in, or there was always like some situation independent of politics and conspiracies that like came way before.
That was on Chicago Med.
And I just kind of always had that in the back of my head, like knowing that, but I never really had a chance to prove it or kind of see that theory out until I met Kelly at the White Lives Matter rally.
One of the reasons why I find this interesting, so I've spent the last few years interviewing young people who got politicized online. My own theory of radicalization.
He does look like a prisoner
I think quite similar to yours.
I don't know about that fashion.
But this particular narrative has been, I would say, entirely absent from mainstream media. Mainstream media seems to propose that because people are voicing opinions on the internet, that in itself is what radicalizes people, without any of these other contributing factors.
Hold on.
So to spend a moment on this, security, quite similar to yours. But this particular narrative has been, I would say, entirely
met Kelly at the White Lives Matter rally.
One of the reasons why I find this interesting, so I've spent the last few years interviewing young people who got politicized online. My own theory of radicalization.
I want to watch videos on that
I think quite similar to yours. But this particular narrative has been, I would say, entirely absent from mainstream media. Mainstream media seems to propose that because people are voicing opinions on the internet, that in itself is what radicalizes people, without any of these other contributing factors. So to spend a moment on this, security, can we dive a little bit deeper into that one? What does that mean?
So security is like typically like actual physical security, like having a place to stay, having a roof over your head. Typically it means like
Trump
the home,
arrangement tumor.
you know, like just knowing that like when things hit the fan, you're going to have a place to lay your head at the end of the night. It could also be like security in marriage. Like
that's part of mass psychosis. Like I said, if you don't feel like things are consistent and stable, you can break.
You know that you have a faithful partner, emotional security. So I look at that as like mostly like a shelter and emotional safety thing. Significance, which you have a podcast. I'm a documentary filmmaker too. For us, I think that's found in like the work that we do.
Yep, I pointed that out. So when he says significance, he means people need to feel like they're appreciated, that people like them, that they're important. And I said this about Edward the Debt Collector, the guy who Jordan Klepper used to interview. And the first time he met him, he was like, why did you like Trump? And he was like, well, I made a lot of money while Trump was president. And he goes, well, what did you do while Trump was president? And he was like, I'm a debt collector. And he's like, oh, come on, man. And after that, he called him Edward the Debt Collector. And over the past like 5 years, he'd go to these rallies and he'd see that dude at every one of them. And he's like, man, I see you all the time at all this. And he's like, yeah, I go to all of them. They're super fun. And then Biden got elected. And you guys can go find this video on my channel. Jordan Klepper sits down with this guy in a one-on-one interview, and I do an analysis of it. I just react to it. It's not an analysis. But I react to it. And during that, he goes, well, how's your life been since Trump hasn't been president? He goes, it's boring. He's like, I miss it. I miss being able to go to the rallies. I was somebody. He's like, you don't think about it until it's gone. He's like, but man, there was this one time I was at a rally and Trump looked down at me and he said, there's the guy with the beard. That guy's always at all my rallies. And he was like, everybody looked at me and they're like, you're that guy. And that's what people like, specifically like everyday middle-class American people or impoverished people, lower middle-class people, that's what they hunger for, is this like want to be recognized, to be seen. And we might hate it, but that's what Donald Trump did for these people. That's why like people would send me, Trump supporters would send me videos and they'd go, how can you hate this man? And it would be Donald Trump walking down a fence line and he'd be shaking the hand of each person and saying hello to him. And I was like, I want to make something clear. You see that and you think, look at how much he loves these people. I see that and I say to myself, man, this good guy is good at public relations. Man, this guy knows when the cameras are on him. And I don't even doubt that Donald Trump would shake these people's hands because he knows they love him. He knows that they're his loyalists. I'm sure in some way Donald Trump does actually like these people, right? He likes anybody that will fucking, fawn over him. So they're right in some way, but they're also wrong in another, and that is that they are getting conned. Because I dare you to speak illy, even a little bit about this motherfucker, and see if you ever get a handshake ever again in your life. But his point about significance is really fucking strong, because these people, when you look at the hats, you look at the costumes, the makeup, the crazy personalities, when they go to these rallies make them somebody. And when these rallies didn't exist for 4 years, what did they do? They created them. When Trump wasn't campaigning, they were still doing all this shit. He's coming back May 20th. He's going to rejoin the government and take over. Oh, May 20th comes and it didn't happen. All right, June 6th, it's going to happen June 6th. It's because their significance is tied to Donald Trump's existence. That's kind of actually fucking scary as I say that, to think that at one point or another Donald Trump's going to die. Who the fuck knows what these people are going to do when that happens?
You feel purpose in the work.
Significance. Like, I work and I know that, like, I matter to at least
the J6
my friends,
era.
my family.
Exactly,
whether or not you have fans, it doesn't matter.
Mike
You can
Pillow,
find
that's another one
significance
right
in, like,
there.
doing charity
Exactly,
work.
Jeremy.
But I think for most
Being a
people,
parent,
right?
for a lot of people,
But
yeah.
for most people, it's in line with, like, who they are in the world. So for Kelly, his significance was like, dude, I'm a sick ass lawyer. I'm a high paid bankruptcy attorney. I'm the man. Like, I help people. I win cases.
Yeah.
And then connection is, like, the most core emotional need. And I think it's the hardest to get because money can't buy it.
And what do they get? What do they get at these rallies? They get connection. Look, I'm an asshole, and I make these jokes, and I talk shit, and I tell them. I say, when they come into my chat, and they try to insult me, and they try to be assholes to me, what do I say to them? I go, I get it. I understand why you're in chat. No one else will talk to you. Your family don't like you anymore. Your friends are tired of hearing about how much you love Trump. Your coworkers can't stand working with you. And the thing about that is the reason that hurts their feelings is because it's true. It's true. Because anybody around them that is still a logical human being is like, your obsession with your love for this guy is fucking weird. And I don't want that in my life, so I don't want to be around you. So where they get that connection, it's like going to a Star Trek convention if you're a Star Trek nerd, right? Like, if you were Peter Thiel 30 years ago, before you got super fucking rich and decided you're going to try and take over the United States of America through subversion, and you went to a Star Trek convention, you felt like, oh man, I'm no longer outcast. All these people believe in the same things I do. Man, it's so fucking cool. I want this to never end. I don't want it to ever. I can wear the Spock ears. Nobody makes fun of it. Nobody gives me a wedgie and shit. Like, this is amazing. That's how the Trump supporters feel when they go to a rally and they see everybody else acting just as crazy as them. It's mob mentality. It's connection. It's hive mind shit. Jonathan Haidt, I love listening to Jonathan Haidt talk about bees and chimpanzees. Before I heard Jonathan Haidt talk about bees and chimpanzees, I always talked about ants and cats. I always said human beings are somewhere between a house cat and an ant, what is it, a clan? Hive? Ant hive? I think it's an ant hive, right? Colony. Ant colony. So there's somewhere between a house cat and an ant colony, because human beings want to believe they're singular, they're unique, they don't need anybody's help, just like a fucking cat, right? But the moment they need help, they're loud as fuck, and they're like, why isn't anybody helping me? You know, if they need the door opened, they're fucking super loud. They need to be fed, they're super loud. All of a sudden, they need your help. But at other times, human beings can be a lot like an ant colony. And we know this because of studies with marching, where people have claimed that while working either in a big group that works really well together, or marching in concert, like in either a band or in the military, that they feel a sense of connection with other people. And when you feel that connection, it's almost like gospel, right? Like, you go to a gospel church, like you go to a church and they're all singing and they're loud, and or the ones that does tongues. What is that? Is it Pentecostal, right? Where they're all fucking, they're yelling and shit. You feel that connection, and that can make you feel as though something magical is happening, something that you had never felt before, something buried deep down inside of you because of evolution. So once again, when he talks about connection, you got to get in their head and understand They feel outcast from their family. They feel outcast from their friends. They feel outcast from the media. And then they show up at a Trump rally and it's like, I'm somebody, I have significance, I have connection. The shit that happened to me doesn't matter when I'm here. And now you got a call.
So in that sense, it's very separate from the first two. And connection asks like, am I loved?
Rave
You
is
know,
the same
do people
thing.
love
Yep,
me? Like,
silent.
is there this?
Exactly.
Am I actually connected to my, you know, friends, family? So like brotherhood, camaraderie, sisterhood, like having a family dynamic, sibling, all that is connection.
Yeah.
And money can't buy that. Like, you know, some of the people with the most security and significance have the least amount of connection.
Is that
some,
really
like,
actually
I've heard
cringy?
like billionaires having like high rates of depression and loneliness and isolation, and that kind of all tracks.
Which of these contributing factors, security, significance, connection, do you think is the most important?
I would say
Hold on. I want to guess. Okay, so I would say the actual most important one is security. 100%, in my opinion, it should be security. But I think the most important one probably to them, I'm going to say, is significance.
it depends how big your pride and ego complex is. I think that for people who lose significance, who have a lot of like, you know, pride and self mythology of themselves as like this alpha king of the world,
That's
I think
why they
that
love
can
Trump.
lead to a lot of like
Yep.
a political psychosis in some people. Generally though, I would say that connection, the collapse
connection.
of core connection, especially with your family and community, is what causes all radicalization.
I mean, Aristotle said, a man left in solitary for too long either becomes a god or a beast. And obviously, most don't become gods.
I think that, you know, when Kelly lost his house, everything else kind of went under too. He lost his law license, so that was significance. His family had to, you know, go from living in like a cul-de-sac, 3-story like McMansion basically to
It's a pretty fancy house.
to living in like Section 8 housing.
Wow.
in Anaheim.
That's a pretty steep drop.
And so I think that he had like a fundamental obligation to provide for them. And when he couldn't do that, I just think he felt like the fabric of like society was almost breaking down. Because I didn't mention this in the film, but Kelly achieved what is considered to be the American dream,
Right.
which is class mobility.
Yeah.
He was raised in a trailer park in, you know, rural
mobility,
Ohio or Iowa or
ability to
something
move
like that,
up.
like
Yep.
a farm boy. And he was able to get into law school at Pepperdine, and he was able to somehow work his way up to being a member of like an elite circle. You know, his neighbors were not people who grew up in the farms. They were all from Southern California, intergenerational.
His neighbor was like the CEO of
Is that his
Taco
neighbor
Bell or
was
something?
the chief general counsel of Taco Bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some shit like that, you know what I mean?
Counsel.
And I don't
Okay.
think that guy is from the farms of Iowa.
Right.
And so he was able to actually like do like the Reagan thing, you know, like born poor, like I'm here. And for that to be taken away from him, he felt like the American dream, which was never really a thing, being stripped away from him meant that something was fundamentally like rotten with society as a whole. And so this really simple
Yeah, a lot of times you want to blame anything but yourself for what happens.
framework of like angels and demons, you know, like just this nebulous force of evil that's out to rob the red-blooded, strong American patriot for everything they've worked for.
never your
molds
fault.
well with what happened to him in his actual life.
Yeah. Was he conservative leaning before that? Like to what degree would he
I mean,
be?
certainly not to the degree of, you know, approaching 70 Antifa dudes with 4 flags in hand yelling about Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm sure like he was socially and fiscally conservative, like probably low taxes, like stop giving out
I mean, everybody gets there at one point, right?
food stamps kind of guy.
Small business kind of
like probably
politics.
say what you want type of dude.
Yeah. I appreciated that you wanted to address this stuff at the top of the documentary. And I felt that it was something that I wanted to see addressed more in This Place Rules. And you intentionally took the time at the top of this new film, Dear Kelly, to like explore some of those themes. I think what is mostly not represented in the mainstream narrative of this is that the downward mobility of most people in society is a direct contributor to their radical politics.
Absolutely.
And it maybe matters less what people are saying on the internet. It matters more that there are being audiences driven to hear those messages and in some cases to seek them out, find a new narrative to explain the world. Do you think that Kelly is representative of most of the people at January 6th?
I think that a solid fraction of them. I mean, I would say around half. I mean, there is people who
Yeah, he
are rich that
probably
are
is
motivated
pretty
just
good.
by hatred. I mean,
Right.
it's not. I'm not going to pretend like every single person at the Capitol was some.
Yeah, what's the class composition of the rioters, basically, right?
The rioters themselves, I would
Yeah.
say, were predominantly working class, if not low income. But the organizers and the people who like kind of sent them into action and you know pumped them up and made a lot of money off them are almost all anarcho-capitalists. As you said. You know what I mean? They're just like, get it how you live. It doesn't matter what the product is you're selling. Like if people are buying it, it's good.
Yeah,
That's
leave
fucking
it to the libertarians to profit off of every other faction. That's
Yeah.
Speaking of libertarians, when were you active on 4chan?
When I was in middle school, just trying to show my friends shit to freak them out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, dude, 4chan back in
4chan's
the
a part
day,
of it,
when it was
man.
like half
It's a part of the
anonymous and
problem.
like half Nazis, that shit was crazy, bro.
Right.
You know, because anonymous, if I'm not mistaken, was like the Occupy movement, those dudes. And then there was obviously like the hardcore race.
So the problem with Anonymous, and I don't think a lot of people that know who Anonymous is now know this about Anonymous from the 4chan days, is that Anonymous was part of the problem. Because when Anonymous first did the things that they did do that got like people's attention, they got a little bit full of themselves. And certain people within Anonymous really like pushed hard to continue to like troll and do these like dramatic things. Because once again, when you get a hold of a little bit of that fame and fortune, you want to audience capture. It's something that every content creator has to do battle with. It's something that every musician has to do battle with. Every leader has to do battle with, because once you recognize what people like about you, and it turns out that that thing is not exactly probably the most morally good thing, you have to make a decision whether or not you are going to upset the apple cart and send those people packing by not doing it over and over again, or you're going to go ahead and like lean into it. And that's what a lot of people in Anonymous did, is they pressured other Anonymous members at that time to continue to do trolley type of things, really immature type of things that didn't have any actual effect on the real world. And if you want to know more about that, you should watch what is the Netflix documentary? It's called The Antisocial Net. If you watch The Antisocial Net, it like goes in pretty good into why 4chan, 8chan, and of course the beginning was 2chan, are a big problem, or a big part of the problem in society today, because there are clear connections between that troll type culture and what you see in Donald Trump today. And just so you guys know, like that's part of the reason for me, right? If I want to make videos on this channel that are super popular, all I have to do is do reactions to Jordan Klepper, make fun of Joe Rogan, do reactions to Bill Burr. These are all things that if I wanted to make, you can go and look at my videos. Go look at my videos. The videos I have where I speak on problems in our society have 200 views. The videos I have talking shit and making fun of people have 200,000 views. And that's with two of those videos I deleted because me and Paramount's lawyers were having discussions and that shit scared me. So we just deleted that shit. I was told later that I shouldn't have deleted them. I should have just privated them. But anyways, I had two other videos that had a couple 100,000 views from the Jordan Klepper days. But I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in audience capture. I'm not interested in only making shit to make money. I'm interested in doing something that makes a difference in this society. And I'm hoping that doing this live stream thing is maybe the next iteration of finding my wheelhouse where I can do that. Or maybe it just doesn't fucking exist, and people doing good things are just never going to get rewarded in the way that doing things in a really bad way are. So I just want to say that about Anonymous, because I think a lot of people see who an Anonymous is now and they're like, oh, they're fighting for the people. That's cool. That's great. But don't forget that Anonymous and what it was during the 4chan days was a lot different than what it is now.
Science people. And that was when B was like really like a war zone. And that was when Live Leak, that was the free internet time period.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
like the internet was actually making people like a little bit smarter and more engaged. I think now it's doing the reverse. It's making people infinitely more hypnotized
Shut up.
and less intelligent.
No,
Yeah.
you, Chris.
Yeah. So, B,
no,
what
you.
kind of boards would you explore in that era?
I liked the music board. Moo was pretty good for finding
Yeah,
like
yeah.
obscure music. I think I found like it was like
Oh, the good
2011. I
old
was in like
days.
6th grade and I found about Neon Indian. I
what
don't
is
know,
that?
just like some basic ass. The viewers will know. It was like some alternative shit.
Okay.
And I went to school and like,
It's a music band?
yeah, it's a music band.
After
and I'm
talk
sure
shit-
some fools
talk
at school and
about,
like, oh,
Kyle
this guy knows
Kalinske.
what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about
So there was that. There
socialism.
was B.
Kyle,
that's
Kyle's
the
a real
random board.
progressive.
And that was where like
I'm just a guy with progressive values.
it all started.
Kyle's
It was
cooler than
kind of
I'll
an
ever
interesting
be.
space. It was
Yeah.
like having your own kind of meta community.
For sure.
But this like arc, we spent a lot of time talking about this on the podcast because my sense around when you're describing like Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street, like
Yeah.
2011 4chan was like anti-establishment, bringing down the power, very different than what it is now, I would say.
I think the same thing they did in the late 1960s with the FBI infiltrating like the greater left and all like just any kind of mobilization that was happening. I think that they did it in between Occupy and 2016. I think what they did is they tricked all of like the conservative leaning people into like billionaire worship.
Thanks,
and I think they
Alan.
figured
Right.
out how to pit the greater left against each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why there's no left at all.
I feel like part of the problem with
what
these
do you
things
say?
is that like very different than what it is now, I would say.
I think the same thing they did in the late 1960s with the FBI infiltrating like the greater left and
okay.
all like just any kind of mobilization that was happening. I think that they did it in between Occupy and 2016. I think what they did is they tricked all of like the conservative leaning people into like billionaire worship. And I think they figured
Right.
out how to pit the greater left against each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why there's no
That's actually not a bad call there. They did somehow trick all these conservatives into billionaire worship, and the left is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to get the left to fight with the left.
left at all.
I feel like part of the problem with these things is that like it's so new and it's so recent and it's hard to have an objective view onto it. So if
Yeah.
you were to say that 4chan on this board was like this at this time,
Yeah.
there's someone else who is equally in that community and has a
Yeah.
totally different experience of it. And so we're kind of like writing the history of it as we
Yeah.
have.
Nah. Scott says, I think the left should listen to Carville and run his game plan. I have to disagree. I think Carville's just as old and out of touch as the rest of the world. I think that, who was it? Were we watching it last night? Was it last night when we were watching that other video where... No, it wasn't him. I think it was something else I was watching where a guy was saying... The right had Mitt Romney, and they're like, this is your guy. The right had John McCain, and they're like, this is your guy. And the voters soundly rejected those people. And then the voters installed Trump in the primary, in the presidency, and that's when the Republican Party was forced to change. I think the same thing is probably going to have to happen with the left. I mean... At the end of the day, people are old and out of touch. You want to talk about old and out of touch? Talk about tariffs right now. Talk about how people are literally believing that we should bring back the auto industry to America, and that's going to bring back jobs. Now, it might bring back manufacturing, and it might bring back some jobs, but if you've ever seen the inside of an auto manufacturing plant nowadays, it's mostly robots. There's not people standing on those lines. It's like one person and like 60 robots. Now, if you want to talk about what America has a trade surplus in when we talk about exports, we have a trade surplus in services. So like Netflix just came out with their quarterlies and like through the fucking roof, right? Financials, telecommunications, insurance. And old people don't understand why services are the future of the world, not just America, but of the world. And instead, you see somebody like Trump that says, oh, we're going to reopen the coal mines. Well, what good does it do reopening a coal mine, especially when it costs more money to get that coal mine up than that coal mine will ever make, right? And that's because it's old heads. It's a bunch of old ass people like Carville that are like, young people don't know they're beat a Republican and then come talk to me. Well, first of all, they got to get a chance to do it before they do. He said Bernie lost twice. Bernie got fucked. The one thing even I admit from those days is that Bernie got screwed by the Democratic Party. But that's also why I love Bernie, because Bernie, regardless of getting screwed, was like, you know what? I'm still going to say to you guys that I support your values because we agree on this shit, but you fucked me, just so you know. That's why I love that DNC speech from Bernie, where he like called people out. He's like, I'm here, I love you guys, but you guys fucked me, just so you know. I think Carville is, I think he's too old. I think you got to admit at one point or another whether or not you're out of touch. And too much of the left is completely out of touch with today's society. They get mocked for it. They get made fun of for it. And to be honest, even when the right's doing it, they're right. Because too many of these old heads like Carville or the guy who ran Kamala's campaign that's like, the way you win is by playing between the 45s. Like, no, the way you win is not by playing. If you think Donald Trump played between the 45s, holy shit, I don't even know what to say. I can't argue with a person that thinks that Donald Trump played between the 45s. What Donald Trump did was he said, we're going to play with the ball on the 1 yard line of your end zone. I'm going to shove it in over and over again, and you're going to like it. The left has to grow a pair, has to grow a spine. They need to look at the young people, specifically people like AOC, that are very, very popular with young people in our country. And then they need to mobilize that base. Because what Donald Trump did was Donald Trump mobilized the voters that usually would not vote. People that didn't want anything to do with politics. Politics are boring. Politics are gross. I hate all politicians. He mobilized all of those people because they don't know shit about actual politics, but they really, really love them some good WWE. Okay? And now the left needs to figure out the same shit, but they need to figure it out with young, very intelligent, motivated, educated young people, and I think AOC is the person to do that. That's just my opinion. Automotive manufacturing has to be done by robots. If we had people building vehicles, the unions would infect the Jesus Christ. Of course, Scott. Of course, Scott. The Democratic Party as a whole is not left, but this is my problem with everybody and their fucking semantics. Oh, you guys drive me up a wall. Parties do not define values. People define values. Like, that's why I say, like, when people are like, are you progressive? I'm like, I have progressive values. They're like, oh, are you liberal? I'm like, I have some liberal values. They're like, well, so you're not conservative? I'm like, I have some conservative values. I refuse to join fucking parties or define things by parties. Because at the end of the day, anything left of center can be called anything you fucking want to call it, but it's probably actually a hodgepodge of a bunch of other fucking things. There are Democrats that are on the left that you could call leftists. There are Democrats on the left that you could call liberals or classic liberals. You could call them progressives. You could just straight up call them leftists. But to act like there's some like actual fucking solid connection between everybody on the left or the right, to be honest with you, that you can define through semantics and just name a party after them, that shit just drives me up a fucking wall. What's up, 5 Alarm? What's going on? Nobody should look at Detroit. Poor Detroit. What's up, Susie? All right, back to the video.
Have these conversations.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
not falling for that
I
troll,
could be
Scott.
totally wrong about the FBI having a
I already fell
counterintelligence
for,
program
out
after
of left
Occupy.
field
Could be
troll.
wrong. I just don't think I am.
Only
But I
one
don't want to
troll
make
at a
it
time.
seem like I have some information that's
Right,
not out
right.
there,
Yeah,
that I'm like waiting to drop. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's even true. It just sounds true.
Yeah. What about shit posting in those online communities? Like, did you encounter this kind of like hyperbole and political satire that now characterizes so much of our online life?
It was hyper sarcastic and like edgelordy back
Right.
then, and
Yeah.
it kind of blended into like a mainstream conservative speak. Like, it's kind of hilarious to see
You
like
ain't
Elon
wrong.
is using like 7
Oh my
to
God,
8-year-old
yeah.
4chan
Right.
Nazi language.
Yeah,
Like he's
yeah.
posting like Pepe the Frog shit and calling himself
Maximus or
Kekius
whatever the fuck.
Maximus. I was like, bro, that's like the oldest shit. That was like from when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's like a stolen valor white supremacist.
Oh,
You know what I mean? It's
shit.
like, fool. You know, not saying I respect the OG white supremacists, but at least I'm like, you are a Nazi.
Oh,
Right, yeah. He
dude,
he
that's
came in late. He's
hilarious.
late to the game.
Which is
What's
whack.
up, Liz?
I mean, it's all whack, but he's more whack than the OG, you know, real racists.
Thank you for the $10, Scott. Thank you for the content and reading my anti-union sentiment, even if you disagree. Scott, we take all types. You know that. You know that. The guy who's interviewing, his name is Joshua Citarella. I hope I'm not murdering his name, but I probably am. Sorry, Josh. Joshua Citarella, and the name of his podcast is Doomscroll. And he, as I understand it, is a very progressive individual. This is a gentleman that, as I understand it, is very pro-Palestine, very, what I think out of left field would call a leftist. I don't know. You tell me. Out of left field is out in left field. Sorry, fucking up your name. Out in left field. Do you know who Joshua Citarella is, and do you think he is a leftist? You tell me. I want to know what you guys think. Yeah, and always, Scott, you know I'll read your stuff, even if I don't disagree with things. All right, even if I disagree with things, I love hearing people tell me I'm wrong. I love people pushing back against me. Makes me work my arguments through my head. Like I said, steel sharpens steel, man. Very Disney. Wait, hold on. Which one's very Disney? Are you calling me very Disney?
yeah, just trying it on like as an adult. Yeah. I mean, I interviewed, I don't know how many different like literal teenagers who had those politics like 8 years ago when that was like an edgy countercultural identity. And now a grown adult father of 12 or 13 is trying it for the first time. It's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, it is pretty embarrassing, especially the richest guy in the world. But I also got to be careful talking too much shit about Elon, because his fans, they'll really bully the fuck out of you, man.
They'll assassinate you from a
He's more like
Starlink
a
or some
Green
shit.
Party
And they think I'm
pro-Palestine
Jewish, too.
guy. Oh, no,
They
his
do?
name is.
Yeah.
They think this about everybody.
Yeah, but I'm always getting,
That's
every time I
actually
say some shit about Elon,
Cinderella?
my
Queen?
Instagram
Cinderella?
DMs are always like, you fucking Jew
Joshua
piece of shit.
Cinderella.
Have they
Like,
seen his recent trip to Israel?
too much shit about Elon, because his fans, they'll really bully the fuck out of you, man.
They'll assassinate you from a Starlink or some shit.
And
too.
they think I'm Jewish, too.
They do?
Yeah.
They think this about everybody.
Yeah, but I'm always getting, like, every time I say some shit about Elon, my Instagram DMs are always like, you fucking Jew piece of shit.
Have they
Like,
seen his recent trip to Israel?
It fucking doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put those things together so I can avoid that bullying situation.
When you were in middle school, you started to get into politics. I've heard you talk about a
Who
group
gets into
called
politics
Seattle
in middle
Solidarity.
school?
Oh shit, you're doing a real deep cut right now.
This is what I want to hear about. Yeah.
This is a sick ass interview. They're not asking me this on iced coffee hour.
I didn't think
Oh,
so.
no. Poor Ice.
I think that means a lot in how we're our formative experiences and understanding the world. And I understand that this was not a especially political group in the way that there are radical
I mean, I think
groups now.
Seattle Solidarity was like a proto-black bloc political organization.
Yeah.
I mean, my friend Mads Jacobson, I met him in 7th grade. He was a busker at Pike Place. He was an
Tinkerbell.
anarchist. And he gave me this book called
Dude, his
AFAC,
hair's out of
Anarchists
control.
Frequently Asked Questions. And I became, for 8th and 9th grade, like a pretty...
It was a physical book.
Yeah, it was like 1,000 pages. And I also grew up next to an anarchist bookstore called Left Bank Books at Pike Place.
5 alarm. My boss is Jewish, and he has these badges that say Jewish Space Laser crew member. That's right. I'm a crew member.
Wow.
So like I always was into like Emma Goldman and just all the stuff that Mads would give me. You know what I mean? And his brother was like one of the leaders of Seattle Solidarity.
Yeah.
So after the police murder of a Native American man named John T. Williams in Seattle, which happened a few blocks from my house when I was 12, I started marching with that group.
Damn it. 12?
You know, I never like we're all like the ninja block, but I was like, you know, I have some leftist roots as a young person.
Did you ever use a political label in these early years?
Probably anarchist, yeah.
Yeah.
It just sounded badass too.
I
does
claim to
sound
be an
bad.
anarchist
Yeah.
at 12 too. It's all
What
good.
about now?
No, I try not to, because no matter what, you can't win. You know, but you know, it seems that a lot of people think
We
that
all
I'm
thought
like
we
a
were
leftist, which
anarchists
is
at one
true.
point.
Probably. You're a leftist.
I am, yeah. I mean,
Well, I am
the
too.
question though is always like, what left? You know?
Yeah, that's what
'Cause
I'm
it's
saying.
like
Here we
there's
go.
such a huge
should
spectrum of
answer your
like,
question, left
are
field.
you deep green resistance? Are you an egoist communist? Are you a social democrat? Are you a whatever the fuck? Yeah, and so getting in the weeds on those things is sometimes
I really don't even classify
they're
my
just gonna say the
political
same shit I say.
ideologies. But because when I say I'm a leftist, sometimes I'll see some really cringy leftist shit and be like,
This
I don't know.
occasion.
Right,
But then I think
right.
about what I actually stand for and care about, and it would not be a conservative value structure.
Nice, Liz.
You have
Okay.
anarcho-capitalist
You guys are so far ahead of
anarcho-capitalist
me.
viewership for this show.
I know we've got at least one.
I had a college professor named Walter Block, who's known as the
Holy shit.
godfather of anarcho-capitalism.
I know, yeah, wow. Okay.
I don't know who
I've
that
seen
is.
his
I
lectures
guess
at
I'll
the
have to look
Mises
it up.
Institute.
Yeah.
You studied under him?
Well, no, it's not like he's my sensei. I had one of his classes,
Dude,
but it
I
was
love
a prereq. He
Andrew.
teaches undergrad courses.
Okay. Yeah, no.
It
but
wasn't
he
like my mentor.
He
Yeah.
taught your class.
Yeah.
With fucking Walter Block.
Yeah, and guess
Wow.
who
What
Walter
was that
Block's,
like?
guess who his best friend was in high school?
Who?
Bernie Sanders.
Oh no shit!
Bro.
I swear to God.
What?
This is all real shit.
That's insane.
Scott, the
You're
tint
fucking
is
with
too
me.
big.
I
You're making
swear to
this up.
God.
That's
you can
what-
look this
that's
up.
why I have a
There's
hard time
pictures
with people
of
when
Bernie
they wanna
Sanders
talk
and
about
Walter
it.
Block damn near holding hands when they're on the track team together over here in Brooklyn.
Bernie ran
Wow.
track.
And yeah, so Walter Block,
What did he teach you about?
economics or some shit. It was
Okay, I don't care what he taught him about. I want to know what sport Bernie was in. Was Bernie a pole vaulter? Did he do the triple jump? Was he a shot putter? Bernie kind of looks like he'd do the discus. Okay, I'm gonna guess. Let me guess. You guys can guess too. I'm going with Bernie. Nah, Bernie's like a marathon runner. I'm gonna guess Bernie. Bernie was he was setting record times in college in the 1 mile, 1500. That's what I'm going with.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I don't remember too much about the course.
Economics, though.
Yeah.
It's okay. And he's like, for people who are not familiar, he is like a gold standard, like
Yeah.
Austrian economist, like
Yeah.
Okay.
about as
I'll
far
have to
down the
check him
libertarian
out.
spectrum
Walter
as you can
Block
get.
it is.
Yeah,
What
he's
was it?
all
What was
the
the
way.
school
Shot
that he
put
taught at?
vibes.
It was called
Yes.
Loyola University of New
Right.
Orleans,
Basketball
so it's
is
like
not
a
track and
Jesuit
field.
school. It's not actually
Cross
a religious
country.
school.
Yeah, good job.
It's a party school.
Relay.
It's next to Tulane.
Yeah, that's an interesting mix there of Jesuits, and then you have a libertarian ANCAP professor.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he works there. I think he's tenured. I think they're big on keeping
Can't get
people
rid of
around.
him.
Yeah.
What was that called? Tell me more about this class. Actually, I really
Dude,
want to know.
I wish I could tell you. I had an attendance problem.
That's okay.
Didn't we
I was
all?
a freshman. It's my first semester.
Manny says
I was like
relay
in a new
too.
city, and it wasn't the most entertaining class.
Yeah.
But then as I learned more, I saw Walter Block's name online, and I
Yeah.
was like, dude, I know him.
Yeah, he's very influential in those circles.
He was a nice professor.
Yeah.
It was like an intro to economics course, though. I think he just taught it. Probably part of his tenure. He was
Yeah,
teaching us
yeah.
basic stuff about here's supply side versus whatever.
High
Right,
jump.
right.
All
All
right.
of this. Okay.
Nice.
No, that
fire
makes
alarm.
sense. That makes
High
sense.
jump.
If you want to look at the ultimate example of media brain rot, I think it would be live streamers.
Yeah.
People who consume media, people are now so lazy
Oh,
that
Jesus,
they
is
can't
that
even
new?
consume media themselves.
Oh,
They have to watch someone
Someone
else
else.
consume the news and filter it so they can understand it.
Yeah.
Hey.
And I think
Fuck.
that's going to sort of go and go and go until there's the consumer's eighth on the line.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so this is interesting,
Hey,
right?
that's what I do.
We're in this crisis of legacy media. You don't trust the narratives that are being told to you, and you kind of need some trustworthy source to interpret the events of the world.
Yeah.
Right. To some degree, we
I
both
wasn't ready
fulfill
for
this
this.
role where look at things that are happening and then report back to people. But what are the criteria? What
I don't
what
think I'll be
makes
able to take that
legitimacy and
helicopter.
trust
Holy
in
shit,
the
it's a
people that we find in social media? How does someone choose you versus I don't know, Kai Cenat or the next guy, for example?
Yeah.
What makes you trust in a personality?
Hold on. Kai Cenat is not a fucking a news reactor. Isn't Kai Cenat like a kids streamer? And when I say kids, I mean 15 to 20-year-olds. He's not he's not fucking Hassan or something like that.
To interpret the world.
I think that one, a consistent track record of not lying to people, but I think two, the future of trust in media is people being more transparent about their biases. Part of the problem and the distrust with legacy media in general is that when you're in journalism school, when you're being trained as a formal journalist, they teach you that you are objective, that you're going to be a part of the fourth estate, and you're not supposed to feel any kind of way. You're supposed to be like the supreme bearer of truth telling. But the fact is, nobody is objective. Yeah. Everybody is biased because they're conditioned by the way that they grew up.
So that I think that's a really good point on his part is. When people say to me, okay, so I'm not going to be biased about this, I'm like, it's not possible. It's not possible to say that you have a completely unbiased opinion. You can be aware of your own bias, and that's probably the closest thing to that, but you're always going to be biased. I mean, you have values. The reason you have values is because, that's what's important to you. So it's a lot like saying, if I want to be a basketball coach for my kids' basketball team, right? And they're like, well, you're going to be biased. You're going to start your daughter. And I say, well, no, I want my daughter to earn being a starter. It feels good to say that, okay? And you might even make a solid effort at doing that. But you're always going to drop the bar at least marginally for her to become the starter. It's going to be, okay, close enough. Yeah, you get to be the starter. You know what I'm saying? Whereas another kid, you're always going to be like, well, hey, you got a good jump shot, but you can't ever pass the fucking ball. Okay? Sorry, Jimmy. It's the way it works. Okay? That's the difference. So I like what he says here because at the end of the day, I'm going to take a person that knows of their own bias but still wants to listen to things that don't legit agree with everything they believe. So, when I talk about Mike from the Humanist Report, and I watch his videos, a lot of the stuff that Mike, as a real, actual progressive, believes might not be 100% in my wheelhouse, and so at times, he'll say something, and it'll make me, but I don't turn him off because I recognize I have a bias. That doesn't mean that my bias is going to change. That doesn't mean that I'm going to become pro whatever Mike is pro. But it does mean that at least I'll hear it. And that's what I like to see in people is an ability to say, the other day what we were watching, God damn it. I'm trying to remember. It was like a comedian or something. I was like, I don't like everything. Oh, no, it was that fucking Douglas Murray, Joe Rogan thing. Where it's like, people are like, oh, but you don't know Douglas Murray's a piece of shit. I'm like, I know Douglas Murray's a piece of shit. I recognize that Douglas Murray's not a good human being. But what he's saying on Joe Rogan's show is correct. So I'm not going to discount that what he's saying is not correct, even though my bias is that he's kind of a shitty human being. And that's what I like to see in other people, and I can't stand, whether it's left wing or right wing, when it's just over the top, just drool coming down their chins, how much, this person can never do wrong. Never. That's why I don't like the Trump cult. Is because it's a never do wrong cult, and I can't stand it.
We're talking about with me growing up that way. If I grew up somewhere else and had a different set of circumstances, I might have a totally different political perspective.
What up, Alti?
So the future isn't more objectivity. It's people just being transparent about their own biases and how they stand on things. I am a left-leaning person. I don't present myself as an unbiased person. I'm giving you my perspective, but it's inherently going to be modified by the way I've
got
grown up and had experiences. Part of the distrust about legacy media is they would never tell you they were slanted.
No.
Bill O'Reilly's no spin
zone.
You know what I mean? Anderson Cooper 360. What bias? We're telling you how it is.
Yeah.
And so it was this double gaslighting vector chamber where people are like, what the fuck? You guys are biased. And that sort of realization that people came to is what created the pivot toward alt media.
Yeah.
Yep.
And even and now alt media is masquerading. Corporate media is now controlling our alt media. And I'm not just talking about Peter Thiel and shit. Yeah. I'm talking about
he's funding this show, by the way.
I mean, didn't George Soros just buy Hot Ones?
Did he?
Oh,
what?
no shit.
I'm not kidding. Look,
dude, solid move. Soros with a solid move. He's trying to find the left's Joe Rogan. Soros with a solid move. I don't know. I'm kind of applauding that one. That's a pretty good move by the old guy.
Look it up.
That's how he's enacting his political
you know what I'm
program
saying?
onto people
I'm
through fucking.
5 Alarm Fire. Thank you for the $10. The quickest way to earn yourself a timeout is to target other members in this chat. Be chill. Everybody be chill. Don't attack each other. However, do let people argue. Mods, people can argue. But they cannot. Okay, I don't want people insulting each other, but you can't argue. I don't want anybody stopping anybody from debating. Steel sharpens steel. We want people to have debates where they disagree with each other. So these are the things that you cannot do in my chat. You cannot say you are going to physically harm another person. Period. You cannot call somebody the P word, because I feel like people use the P word way too much, and it should only be used on people that have been proven to be P words. Okay? If you don't know what the P word is, figure that shit out. Okay? We do not block people for arguing. We do not block people for fighting. But we do not need to be eating our own. That's regarded. Okay?
hot ones.
And check this out, bro. You know,
You're
Tucker,
not joking about that? That
you
sounds
can look
fucking
it up.
ridiculous.
Soros Media. They own
Okay.
Vice and they own Hot Ones.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you look into like all these big alt media, like Tucker Carlson's news network is called TCN.
Right.
And the slogan is corporate media is dead.
Right.
It's like,
And he is corporate media.
if anyone's saying that out loud, they are the corporate media. You know what I mean? It's like, corporate media is dead, bro. Come over here. Says like the biggest Fox News propaganda pundit
Right.
of our
Right.
lifetime.
Joe Rogan
is now
says,
like, yo, dude, I'm just
might be
chilling
one
right now.
day.
He has like
He's
a green
he's
screen
having
with
some
like a
issues right
babbling
now.
brook, but like, you know, he has like hunting shit behind him. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm in America, dude. I'm just out here podcasting with my friends. Here's my friend Vladimir Putin. Here's my other friend Trump. And we're just talking, bro. What's up? You want some Zen? And so dude's like, yeah, bro, Tucker's fucking cool as shit. And the legacy media sucks. They're figuring out how to cater their agenda to the new media
Let's go.
consumption
Should've missed
habits.
my fucking
And so you got to be extra careful. But most importantly, just tell people how you feel and be clear about your biases, and you'll develop audience trust from there, I think. And if you're just making a name for yourself as a journalist, you have no or just content creator, and you don't have a following, like it is controversy and drama and negativity that will get you to the top, or at least help you get a following.
Right. Right.
So of course there's more people invested in negative news than there is people like telling positive stories and having like, you know, good conversations about the middle ground and humanity and shit. Like nobody wants to hear that stuff. Even if people do, like drama and negativity stimulates a different part of the brain than positive, productive conversations like this one.
Have you heard of this phenomena called audience capture?
Oh,
This
they're gonna
is
talk about
so
audience
it happens
capture.
to people who are, let's say, center right or center left, and then they get a group of like a certain audience that's following them, and their politics start to lean a little bit further towards the polls because they get this like feedback loop, which is one, just like positive affirmation from their audience, but then two, like it's a lot of financial gain if you get a little bit more extreme.
Absolutely.
Like the people who have extreme views are more willing to give and to support and so on. And so there's this kind of like drift or incentive structure towards the polls as well. I've been thinking about this.
And so that's the truth, is like I said, the reason that audience capture is such a significant problem in our society is because people feed into it. Because people want people to defend their views, but they want them to do it in a way that's entertaining, and they want them to feel as though like they're a part of it, right? So when you have the right wing, and you have people like Tim Pool, you have people like Charlie Kirk, you have people like The Quartering, you have all these different like big streamers. Laura Loomer, she's not really a streamer, but she's a content creator of sorts. You have all these people like Tucker Carlson. The reason that they have such loud voices is because the people that follow them will pay them money to say messed up stuff. They like it. They know that as long as they continue to encourage it, they'll keep doing it. So one of the problems on the left is that if you're a left-wing individual, you're generally trying to be a pretty empathetic person. You want to try to do the Michelle Obama, we take the high ground when they take the low bullshit. And what that ends up in is you don't end up having as many loud voices as the right does. Now, the left does have loud voices. They have BTC, they have David Pacman, they have Adam Mockler. So it's not like they don't have some loud voices. It's that type of content does not make as much money. So left-wing content creators do tend to have less of a voice because they have less capital to spend. It's the same problem with our political system when it comes to some of our best candidates have the smallest voices because the people that get paid by pharmaceutical companies, by big oil, by, these lobbyists, these billionaires, those are the people that know how to use audience capture. They know, this big oil wants me to say this, I say this. And that's why I say you can't always say that the real problem with our society, with our government, is only the politicians. It's also the people and what they click on, what they contribute to, what they continue to push forward on other people by what they use their money to influence. So, it's a really good point on their part.
Just in terms of content creators who have shifted positions in the last few years. There's people who drift from left to right and right to left and all over. And then I was wondering about when you started producing.
So I'll say this to the people in chat. So I don't babysit chat. If you don't like what somebody does or says, block them. I personally don't block people because I like to be able to confront and argue with people and fight with people. That's why I tell my mods not to ban people. You should only be banned if you cross certain lines that are really bad. Other than that, my job is to expose your poor arguments. And I think that it's counterproductive for me to block people. However, if you're in chat and you don't like what other people are saying, I suggest that you block people because I need people that do have differing opinions from mine, so that way either I can expose where there is weakness in that argument, or I can use their argument to better my argument. That's what we have to do. Far right doubles down on gaslighting, whines, complains, and plays victim as if they're actually being censored. It's so grifty and shitty. Yeah, and that gets money. It gets money, Manny. It gets money.
Producing content that was maybe not political before, did you experience a development or evolution of your own belief system?
I mean, I've definitely fallen victim to audience capture before, just to be transparent.
Yes, he has.
I mean, definitely, I used to throw a lot more stones when I was younger.
Audience capture, even political audience, or
when I
social?
first started my career, back during the all gas no breaks days,
if
I would always kind of make
no
people
breaks,
look, not always this, but I would make people look bad sometimes. I'd interview someone and everyone would be like, "You're so crazy," and so it kind of gave me this complex to lean a little bit harder into that. Oh, bro, you just interviewed the furries. You should go interview Wooks. You should go do this. Always, kind of people loving when I just talk to weirder and weirder people,
right?
To the point that I started feeling shitty about it.
There's a large degree of people online that just want to gawk at a freak show,
and I felt like I was facilitating. I felt like I had a whack pack. Freak show kind of circus
when I was younger
moment. Midway through all gas no breaks, where I was all right, I'm just kind of harvesting these fringe personalities for the amusement of anonymous gawkers online. And I just felt bad about that.
If you don't block them, you gotta deal with them.
Getting older and realizing does anybody in all gas no breaks actually appreciate being part of this show? For reasons that aren't just I'm famous online. Are they connecting with the audience? How do they feel about being lampooned endlessly in the comment section?
Yeah.
I had a friend named Mr. Daddy, rest in peace. And, every time I'd put him on my videos, he was this crazy Las Vegas, mohawk,
I remember,
fur coat wearing dude. And every time there'd be a video of him, it would be oh, cocaine's final boss. So just shit like that. That's an example of someone, he's like, I love cocaine. That's awesome. But for some people, like, flat earthers, those kind of people, like, it was an objectively embarrassing experience for them to be featured in All Gas, No Breaks. I remember when I filmed a video called 4th of July in Marquette, Michigan, 2 of the people that I interviewed got fired.
You heard
just for like acting crazy in an All Gas, No Breaks
That's,
video.
Right.
Things
And
must
that's
be
something
bad
that
in
stuck
the
with me.
economy.
And I was like, okay, do those people cry? Like, are they genuinely, did I just like start a depressive chapter for someone?
Do they have kids?
You know what I mean? No, they didn't have, these are like college freshmen. I mean, they could,
Yeah,
but generally I was like, did I just like bring in a really shitty chapter of their life? Did I just create negativity in their life? And is that worth the view count?
Right.
And I decided ultimately that it wasn't. And so I don't do anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I also, even though my content isn't anything like All Gas, No Breaks, I also feel that need to not continue to contribute, like, overtly. Like, it's one thing, you want to watch a Kanye West video. You want to point out how crazy it is. You want to have a good laugh every once in a while. That's fine. Like, having some content or having, a portion of your life where you're not always trying to hold the moral high ground, that's okay. But I feel like, just like he's saying, I don't want to actively contribute to what I do believe is a huge problem in America right now. And that is that we're content captured. We're audience captured. And, things like TikTok, things like Instagram, social media in general, I guess, X to like the fucking exponential. That doesn't work. I wanted a pun there. X to the X amount is probably the worst at it. But this like online viewing voyeurism of certain things can get out of control. And that's why, like I said, my channel started with the Klepper videos. And so a lot of what I did was a bit of that voyeurism because, to be honest with you, it was like insane to me. I actually couldn't believe that these people believed these things, but it's a lot less of that now. And it's more of trying to point out like the craziness of the ideas and the people that are involved with it are a part of that. But I think it's more important to figure out what the root cause of all this shit is. And so that's why I have the extra streams now, is in an attempt to watch videos like this. So that way I don't feel like every time I get on Wednesday or Saturday that I'm missing out on parts of what I believe is the problem with our society, whilst having to go over all the bullshit that Donald Trump kind of puts out on a daily basis. So I totally feel what he's saying there.
Yeah, I mean, there were, for people who are not familiar with this, there was a era of YouTube, this is many years ago now, where people would stage fake acid attacks and do prank videos that were like on the threshold of violence. That was, really
Texas
dangerous
isn't even
incentives.
America.
And what they did was, deplatform and demonetize that stuff because
I'm an
they
Eagles
realized
fan,
that
so
they
I kinda have
created
to
this
get behind
really
it.
dangerous incentive structure that would cause harm in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, you don't think about that stuff when you're in the field, especially when the people on camera are like stoked to be in the video.
Right.
But then you post the video and they're like, dude, I lost my job. Can you take this down? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I got an advertiser
That's
who's
that
like going to cut my
significance thing
paycheck
again.
if I don't take this down.
That's the
And you're
significance-
22,
that
you're trying to make a
significance
name
you
for
talked
yourself.
about.
I'm not
Right.
perfect,
Right.
but it to me, it's about like what you do after that.
Yeah.
Like if you just continue being like, fuck you, homie, I'm all about my fucking content, then, yeah, it's on you.
Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, I never had this problem because everyone I interviewed was always anonymous. So I went at lengths to protect them, and it wasn't an issue. No one could get doxxed or lose their job. And, in many cases, their kids, they don't have jobs, for example. But what you start to, I guess the question is that these are documents of people who exist in the world and hold these extreme beliefs, and they need to be made visible so that society can see itself reflected.
Yeah.
And then you have to make this kind of ethical editorial choice of like, to what significance is this to the rest of society that they need to see it, and what damage might that cause to the person. And that's an individual cost benefit at like every time on the cutting room floor. Like, how much damage will this cause to someone's life? how important is this story for society to see?
Mm-hmm.
That can be a very difficult choice sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that the Kelly documentary was like the first time that a family actually really wanted me to produce a documentary about them, and they were actually happy with the finished project.
You got incredible
God damn it,
access
read your
on
comment
that.
as
I mean,
said
they're
Max. That's a good
filming the
feeling.
intervention was not my idea. It was the daughter Kaylee's idea.
Wow.
She was like, we feel like a lot of families have a father or a brother or someone in the family who's in a similar boat to Kelly, and that this is important to share because it's relatable. Whereas like the previous family that I had filmed for the HBO project called the Q family, the Spencer family, they sued HBO after that movie
Oh,
came
no
out.
shit.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we look ridiculous. I was younger. I was like,
whose fault
whatever.
is that?
This is important. This is journalism. But now I'm like, I don't feel bad about filming that family. However, like, I feel better about filming the Johnson family.
I mean, it's immensely difficult because the kids are so young as well.
In the, which family?
And the Q family.
Yeah. But I mean, like, still, I think that was part of why it was so, like, insane. It's like, this kid is 8 years old and he's, like, so well-versed in this encyclopedia of Q stuff. Like, holy shit. He's, like, spitting every piece of info. Every drop is flowing out, That Q family scene probably, like, benefited that family for the positive. From what I've heard from even in the lawsuit was that, like, they are no longer into the QAnon stuff.
Of the
That's also
politicization
good.
experience, clearly in Kelly's life, there was this loss of the home and the job and so on. Was there anything similar to that for this family that caused them to go
I
down the
actually
rabbit
have
hole?
no idea. That's kind of what I was talking about with the why not being answered with the HBO project. I didn't really know what the Q family was like before,
Right.
that political psychosis they collectively experienced.
Yeah, see?
Probably there was something. I guarantee you there was something.
Talking about
I'm
it.
just not quite sure what it was.
There usually is something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Financial loss, job loss, like divorce, something
because
like that.
before you even get into any radical politics, like you have to have this perception that like things are broken. And if things are going quite well for you and you hear all this like insane shit online, you're like, oh, it's not really something that's going to affect me.
Right. But then the problem is that there's less people for whom shit is going well.
Yeah.
So there's more people seeking out, like,
For example,
an explanation online.
If you read online, like, you hear that migrants got free phones. If you're having a good life, you're like, okay, what the fuck? I don't care.
Exactly.
But if like you can't make rent and like your card is getting declined at the gas pump and like you're like looking at your phone, and you're like, what the fuck? Like it has you have to build on like angst that's already underlying. You can't just manifest outrage from nothing.
You mentioned the intervention in the Kelly scene, and he was one of the first people that reached out to you after your cancellation.
Right.
Did you feel a temptation in your own belief system to maybe rebrand as like a anti-cancel culture
I
guy?
like this part.
Hell no,
Right-wing pivot?
bruh. No, dude, that's like the
this is
worst
part
thing
I
you can
wanted to
do.
see.
No, but like real shit, and I've never said this on a podcast. Well, 1 week after getting canceled, I got a job offer from InfoWars.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, it's funny, like people always say,
Good thing you didn't take it. They're doing so well now.
Dude, Andrew
so
Callaghan
people always say like,
on
when you get canceled,
InfoWars.
like your career's over. No, it's the opportunity to begin a second career in like that sort
As
of
a
like
hater.
free speech warrior
Yep.
space with like Russell Brand in them.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that because I'm not aligned with them in the way they talk and think about things.
What kind of household did you grow up at? Was this a blue household, red household?
So I'm from Irish Philadelphian lineage, but I think my parents had a big progressive shift around the turn of the millennium. I don't think they were particularly political in general. I think my dad probably leaned more conservative when he was like younger. He was in a fraternity and stuff like that at IUP in Western PA. And I think that the Iraq War was a big moment of radicalization for them.
Yeah.
I think that Inconvenient Truth documentary was a big moment too. I think I think a lot of people, in the same way that like 9/11 made a lot of people join the army out of just as a reaction to that. I think the Iraq War and kind of Saddam not having any nuclear weapons made a lot of people who weren't particularly progressive be like, wait a second, this war is a lie? What's going on? And so they became very anti-Bush.
Yeah.
And I think that they also became vegetarians.
Oh, wow.
And so they had this like,
Is one connected to the other?
yeah, there's a connection. I think.
Ethical commitment or something?
Yeah, they just like kind of, also they moving to Seattle.
I guess
there's
is
more of
a
a climate for that
connection.
kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of times people will, as a form of teenage rebellion, embrace the opposite politics of their parents. And so if their parents are progressive or blue-coded, they'll be a paleoconservative or something like that. And doesn't seem to be the case. It wasn't the case for me either. But
they're blue-coded in like the
that if
East
your parents
Coast,
have good
like rough
morals,
and tumble.
you
way.
actually
I see.
don't
Like, you know what I mean? They like
away from
they're
what
very
they believe.
tolerant. They don't infantilize marginalized groups like a lot of the West Coast liberals do.
yeah.
You know, my parents
yeah.
weren't some like, you know, BLM yard sign type of people.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like, they would see someone who was not white or whatever
Oh,
and treat
I
them
lost?
normally.
Right. Yeah. Not
There
like
was
they're
no
a
like,
pet
hi,
or
are you
something.
okay? You know, can I walk you to the bus? I don't want you to get shot.
I was still back
Oh
in
yeah. What were
medieval
these people
times.
called? Like the human body shield people?
I need to put this documentary out. So I filmed a training camp in Portland, Oregon in 2020 for a group of people that were identifying as white body shields.
Okay.
And so they would dress in their Antifa.
And this is where it goes too far. This is where, like, these are the type of videos that get sent to me where they're like, yeah, there's nobody on the left that's crazy. And I'm like, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Armor, you know, like the baseball helmets and all that
England
shit,
one?
bulletproof vests,
England
walkie-talkies.
one?
Yeah.
And they would go to black neighborhoods in Northeast Portland and Gresham, and they would ask black Americans if they could walk them home from the bus to the grocery store,
See, that's
you know,
cringe.
and they would say,
That's cringe,
because
boys.
if a cop tries to
That's
shoot you,
cringe.
I'm gonna use my body to shield you from that bullet, and I'm gonna take the bullet for you.
They're just going up to random people on the street and ask them, going to the grocery store? How'd that work out?
Most people were like, I'm good, man. I don't want to walk around with you. I'm probably more likely to have a problem with a police officer if I'm with this fucking white ninja looking fool. You know, who's like next to me with a walkie-talkie,
Right,
dressed like he's about to go boost fucking MacBooks in San Francisco. You know, they're literally dressed like they're bippers, which, you know. So, yeah, it was just funny. Like, moments like that, you could never find somebody like that on the East Coast.
Right.
It would just be impossible to cultivate someone that naive if they grew up in New York City or Philadelphia. You have to be like from somewhere like Seattle and Portland. So do you think in a way, like a lot of very privileged people focus so much on electoral politics instead of like more local politics because they just kind of feel like it's easier to get mad about this like nebulous kind of bigger picture thing instead of like focusing on tangibly changing the community around them?
I think the liberals that really care about the electoral politics, it's more of a they can avoid having any of the policy discussions and just focus on the binary of the choice.
Yeah.
Because if the conversation is
Yeah.
limited to just this person is preferable to that, you don't have to talk about any of the like miserable neoliberal shit that they're going to advance. And so it's just like, oh, sidestep that one. It's like, you have to vote. You have to vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that makes me think, like, looking back at, like, Jill Stein and some of the Green Party stuff.
Yeah,
Do you think, like, some of that shit was, like, either foreign meddling or some kind of, like, direct plan to subvert Democratic votes? Or do you think it was, like, a genuine disillusionment with the two-party system?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past basically, I mean, I think my base level understanding is that like every superpower state is manipulating the politics of every other state, right? Like, and often when you trace these things back years later, you'll find some like exit group or secessionist group was actually being funded by the superpower competition of like US, China, Russia, wherever it happens to be. I don't get a tremendous amount of that feeling from the Green Party and Jill Stein specifically.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if that was the case with like a whole bunch of other smaller groups. Like there was this, do you remember Black Hammer?
I don't know about that though. Like the Jill Stein thing just kind of like drives me nuts because Jill Stein, you don't hear about Jill Stein for like fucking 4 years, and then you hear about Jill Stein during the election. One of the things that's kind of driving me nuts right now is that you're not really hearing anything from Kamala. She did just come out and talk a little bit. You're not hearing things from the Clintons. Obama just came out and said something. But it's like, if you're not actually participating in society and being out there and making a difference, then why should I ever want to vote for you if you're not actively being a part? Like right now, Tim Walz is out there. Right now, Bernie Sanders is out there. Right now, AOC's out there. Who else? Jasmine Crockett, Max Frost. Like, there's lots of people that are staying engaged and doing something. And those are the people that I want to support. So, though there are things about Jill Stein that obviously I agree with, policy-wise, it's really weird to me that Jill Stein pops up only during fucking election years and then just fucking goes away until she's gonna come back and potentially like fucking destroy any chance of a Democrat winning the next year. I mean, like I said, I don't have anything against her, but it does seem fucking weird.
It was,
oh my God, yo.
Yeah.
They're connected to the Uhuru movement.
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
the same guy,
Not
What's
right?
the name of that guy, dude? Yo, I wanted to interview him so bad, but he was like already like
I think
off
he's
of his
responsible
scene.
for a murder now, so it might be. Yeah.
He's not a Zizian, right? Different thing.
No, different,
Okay,
a different thing.
stay on
But
track.
there's somebody that committed suicide in their headquarters a few years later, and he was out doing a fucking live stream, and he's like, "This is the moment. Black Hammer's gonna blow up." Like, just fucking insane.
Okay.
But so they did a protest in front of Facebook, like the big like sign in front of the thumbs up sign of their one Facebook way or whatever. Turns out several years later that it was some group from the Kremlin that had paid for the plane flights to bring these.
Peekabell says, not to defend Jill Stein, but are you actually trying to hear from her between elections? She's out doing stuff, but she's not exactly a media attraction until she can be used as one against a Democrat. So my problem with that, Pinkerbell, is that if you want to be heard... So is Jill Stein broke? Hold on, let's look this up. Because before I start making accusations, I should know what I'm talking about. Like... Jill Stein has an estimated net worth of 37 million. That's a fucking X comment. I'm not doing that. What is the BBN Times? I don't know what that is. I don't know if I can trust this either. $500,000 from her parents. Estimated net worth of 37 million. This one's saying 37 million too. She's a physician. Okay, I don't know if I can trust these numbers, but I'm going to guess she's not poor. So my question always for people like Jill Stein and other people like her, even Bernie Sanders, right, is like, what are you doing during that time to bring the media's attention? And I get that. I understand that, like I said before, people want to mostly just focus on the negatives, right? But I see Al Sharpton all the goddamn time. You know, I see other people that are not necessarily these big... I mean, I know like saying something like Al Sharpton isn't a big media draw is probably incorrect, but I see him doing things that are very important, having discussions with people that are very important, continuing to stay in the media's eye. And to me, I don't like the idea of the game of media and the way that the U.S. government works and the way that our elections work and all those things. But I do think that you do have to play part of that game, or you're not serious about getting elected, right? So my question with Jill Stein is not whether or not her values are good, but whether or not she's actually serious about becoming the president of the United States of America. Because, like, one of the things that people have against Bernie, right, is that Bernie has money, that Bernie wrote books, that Bernie did this, Bernie did that, right? But why I like Bernie, but I don't seem attracted to Jill Stein, is because Bernie seems to understand that if he wants any chance at becoming the president of the United States, or did want any chance at becoming the president of the United States, that you do have to play within the system. And that's why I think I'm attracted more to the ideas of democratic socialism than I am the Green Party. The Green Party and the people that generally get churned out. Now, I do want to look more into what is Ralph Nader, because I do like Ralph Nader as well. But it feels like they're not serious about it, because whether or not you like the game or not, you do have to choose to play by some of the rules if you want to seriously, I'm going to say serious 5 more times, sorry. If you want to actually try to be the president of the United States. Because if you're not making this honest effort, then you're just playing spoiler. I guess that's what I don't like. No idea, I don't support her, I just know that she doesn't even exist when the media isn't covering. Yeah, no, I like that you push back, Pinker, just so you know. Media is bought and paid for, though. Unfortunately, it takes those. But here's the problem with that argument, Dolly. So Dolly says the media is bought and paid for, though. Unfortunately, it takes these thousands of people showing up for this oligarchy tour in order for them to even get attention. That's what I'm saying. Is if you want to get the attention, you have to find a way to make that attention come to you. I mean, same thing goes for me on here. If I don't want to participate in audience capture, if I want to sit up here and say like, oh, I'm not into that, then it's on me to figure out a way to make my voice bigger. I can't sit around and complain about that. But the one thing about that is that like I'm not doing any harm to anybody by not being successful. I'm just doing harm to my wife's mental health that I'm streaming all the time instead of going up and hanging out with her, which she's not always happy about. So, like I said, I think the main thing for me with Jill Stein is whether or not she wants to actually get elected, or if she's just trying to play this like moral high ground role of like, you know, this is a mirror to society, like that person was saying earlier. Do you want to look in it and see, oh, you could have voted for Jill Stein, but you didn't, so you got this person instead? Like, I don't know if that outcome, or that, you know, saying that is a good thing. And I'm not saying you are, Pinker. I like that you asked the question because it makes me have to answer it, right? So I appreciate you asking the question, first of all. But second, it's still like it does get to me that third-party candidates choose to disappear or not play within the system that would potentially get them elected. Like, I know I see a couple of you guys saying Jill Stein's a Russian asset. Okay, I don't know enough about that for me to jump up in that conversation, my friend. Okay, she might be. I don't know, but what I do want to say is that, like, it feels like most of her values, her policy values, align with most of the things that I believe, but she doesn't feel like she's actually trying to get elected. She's just trying to say, hey, I'm here again in case you guys want to be morally good human beings, but you probably won't. You know, and to me, that just seems so fucking counterproductive. It's like, I guess it's like the inner manager in me that's like, if you want to do the fucking job, then try. Work hard. Try to get the fucking position. It's like if I have like a department manager that has all the fucking skills in the world, but they don't show up half the time. And then when the department manager job comes up, or a potential for a department manager, and a department manager job comes up and they're like, well, I should just get it. And I'm like, well, why? Well, I mean, you think I'm pretty good, right? I'm like, yeah, but you don't fucking show up. That guy is not as good as you, but he shows up all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and once again, I'm not arguing with you guys. I'm arguing with myself up here. Because it just feels weird. It doesn't feel weird. That's my problem with her, just so you guys know.
Black activist protesters in front of the Facebook sign to do the photo op, essentially. So I think all of that kind of stuff exists. I'm kind of partial to Brianna Joy Gray's interpretation of this, which is that, like, if a foreign actor says a true thing,
that's right. And Ralph Nader got
maybe like just confront the truth, even if it's difficult.
I just feel kind of dumb because like I never say
Yeah,
who
I
I
feel
voted
you
for, but I
also.
did vote for Jill
I
Stein.
don't know enough about her to really
And this was my first
comment
time voting for
enough.
like a
It's
third
just,
party
like I
candidate.
said.
And then like because I was really affected by the Israel-Palestine situation, just as a and I was also really affected by Bernie Sanders being disenfranchised in the 2016 primaries.
Yeah.
So like she came.
And that's like hitting on a really important part of the fracturing within the left. Bernie Sanders getting disenfranchised in the Palestine-Israel conflict. Like, I know hindsight's 2020, but I still feel to this day that I think that Kamala could have won over so many of her detractors in the Palestine-Israel conflict by making Bernie Sanders the vice president. I love Tim Walz. I think Tim Walz is a good dude. I think he's too much of a good dude. I think that people look at, we want a person that looks just like us. We want a guy that's middle class. It's just like us. But then anytime they get a person that's just like them, they're like, that guy sucks. Why would I vote for him? He doesn't know anything. Unless it's fucking Trump. And then they're like, that guy's a fucking genius. But I really feel like she could have won over so many of those voters by bringing in Bernie. And, I mean, to be honest with you, you guys can go back and look at my videos. I thought Mark Kelly was the move. I liked Mark Kelly. He's an astronaut. He's in a red state. He gets elected all the time. Well, he's in a purple state, to be honest. But they didn't want to put him in because they'd lose that seat. And I didn't like Shapiro being in there, even though I think Shapiro's a really smart dude. I think he's fucking very sharp. But I didn't think Shapiro would do well because he wouldn't fucking look good for the people on the left that were clearly pro-Palestine. And it just feels weird to me, once again, that nobody wanted to even take that into account, that somebody like, I don't know, maybe Bernie didn't want to be vice president. Maybe he was like, fuck that, I don't have time for that shit. But I don't know why that wasn't ever even talked about, to be honest.
Came around, I interviewed her in Chicago, and I agreed with everything that she said about the war machine and kind of both candidates being controlled by this, same elite apparatus and, them being kind of like two in the same. And now Trump is elected and like, there's about to be some horrible shit happening.
Exactly, Nina.
Yeah.
About the
And bad things are
Libertarian Party.
already happening.
They
And
jump
I'm
on
like,
that. They jump on that
bro,
Republican.
am I just a total
immediately.
asshole and moron?
Because they're all
But then I
actually
think about
Republicans.
it, and I'm like, okay, I am a Washington resident. My vote wouldn't have mattered. I voted my way in all different local elections.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
backline
weren't the
deals.
margin for.
Yeah.
But I just realized, like, dude, did we just get finessed? You know what I'm saying? Like, because all of my friends voted for Jill Stein too.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, we're all like, fuck yeah. And she loses and she's gone.
Yeah.
No one's heard a word from her. We're like,
Right,
where's she's going? And the mass deportations
Yes,
are
yes,
happening.
I'm
And like
right.
Trump's talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
turning fucking Gaza into like a shitty resort hotel chain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're like, oh no, it's happening. And like, we just got convinced that it was all going to be like the same no matter what.
Right.
Which isn't true. It wouldn't have been the same no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, my sense of it is that if you're in a, clearly blue district, like I'm not totally sold in the politics.
Yeah, and see, the reason I like people like Andrew is exactly what he just said, is that he interviewed Jill Stein, he liked Jill Stein, and by the way, this very much coincides with what just happened with Bill Maher and Donald Trump. Same idea. Like, you meet a person in person, they're a lot different than when you see them on a podium or giving a speech or whatever. Or in Donald Trump's case, just standing up there and rambling fucking uselessly and calling people names. But what I like about what he said right there is that he says, I met her, I interviewed her, I liked her, I voted for her, and then I felt some remorse for having done so. Because I recognize, oh shit, I might have been part of this problem. And it's one of the things that probably for like the first, I don't know, month or two after Kamala lost, I indulged in fighting with people on the left that were super pro-Palestinian, that were like, I didn't vote for Kamala and this is what you get and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, fuck you, man. My fucking daughter and my wife, have limited access to healthcare. At the end of the day, this isn't fucking, You give more of a shit about people halfway across the world than the people that fucking live right there with you. My wife, my daughter, the women in this society. And I didn't like that. And I fucking, I got mad and I went in on some people. I fucking left plenty of comments on Nina Turner's X account, okay? But what really made me upset, and still to this day kind of annoys the fuck out of me, is this idea of moral superiority of like, there's no way in the world I would have ever voted for Kamala. It's actually your guys' fault that we're here. It's not our fault. It's like, you can admit, man, you can admit that whether it's me in my reasoning or you and your reasoning, that what is going on now sucks. It's not good. And the infighting within the left led to that being a possibility. I'm not saying that it's the only thing, but it led to that, and looking at each other and just saying, hey, you know what? Maybe it was a mistake to vote for Jill Stein. Maybe you're right in this instance that having Kamala rather than having Donald Trump would have been a better thing. And even though I disagree with her stance on Palestine, I'm speaking from them, not for me, that it still was a mistake not to. And this doubling down shit drives me nuts. So I like what Andrew did there, because at least he's asking himself, was I part of the problem? Did I make a mistake? Like you should be. Just like I just said, was Kamala's decision to not choose somebody like Bernie Sanders as her running mate, was that a mistake? If you can't analyze and be good faith and admit every once in a while that you might be fucking wrong about something, then there's no way to progress. And it's fucking hopeless for the Democratic Party if all we're going to do is double down and just vote for Jill Stein because we're mad. Like, that's not fucking productive. It's not helpful. I like what he did
of third parties, but if you're in a really safely blue district, I don't see any problem with a vote of dissent. Just be like, this is unsatisfactory to me. And you just tally it in the other direction as an indication that, like,
do that shit to me.
You can't depend on my vote. You have to earn it. Yeah, I see no problem with that at all.
Okay, man, I just had to tell somebody. You're the first person I've told that. Seriously.
That's okay. Well, that Putin, we can get the chopper, wrap him up.
Because I talked to her and I was like, she's a real one.
Yeah.
And I still think she is, but then I'm like, she only took from the Harris campaign. And
Ultra, you say that you don't believe that there's anybody that went from Bernie to Trump. I can 100% prove you're wrong. I have people that I know, friends that I know, that went from being Bernie supporters to being Donald Trump supporters. I literally had a conversation with a guy on this stream before the election for Kamala, right? And he came on and he was like, I don't want to vote for Trump, but I'd rather vote for Trump than vote for Kamala. I don't like what they did to Bernie. And I was like, what are you talking? I said exactly what you just said. I said, they are the exact opposites. There's no way you can support Bernie, legitimately support Bernie, and legitimately support Donald Trump. They are the exact opposites. And with that gentleman, actually, over the next month or two, he came on right before the election and he was like, I'm going to vote for Kamala. I hope I don't regret this. And I was like, if you regret it, come on back and tell me that I'm an idiot and that she was actually a terrible person, you know? But I can actually prove through my own experiences and relationships that there are 100% people that got so fucking butthurt over the Bernie Sanders thing that they voted for Trump. It's once again, it's like I just said about the Palestine thing. It's cutting your nose off to spite your face. It's a real problem. I don't know if it's with the world or if it's just an American society, but it's a real problem where people, just like you see right now with MAGA supporters, where they're like, ha ha, you're getting owned. And it's like, motherfucker, you're right here with me. It's sucking for all of us. What are you talking about? I'm getting owned. I'm actually probably doing better than you. I was in a better place before all this shit happened. I said it before the election. I'm like, if I vote for Kamala, I'm probably going to get higher taxes on me. Like, I'm voting for Kamala because I want a better world. Because I'm not selfish. So I just want to respond to that because I did see that.
Didn't take anything from Trump.
What's happening,
And Trump
Dan?
won.
What's going on?
Yeah, but I mean, even the margins for this are,
It's
I think, in
Friday.
2024 not.
Hold on. What do we got here? 5-alarm fire, $10. DNC loads burning in progressives. Oh, now I'm reading the wrong comment. Kamala siding with Liz Cheney over Tim Walz at the end probably didn't help her campaign much. 100% 5-alarm. 100%. That's what I'm saying is there was a lot of mistakes, and a lot of them came from the old heads. Watching that interview at the end of the campaign, after the campaign was over, from her campaign manager, or one of her campaign managers, where he said, the way you win is by playing between the 45s and being bipartisan. And I was like, you're never going to get a conservative person to vote for a Democratic president. You're never going to get them to agree. They would either, you can hope that you can get them to not vote, but you're not going to get them to vote for Kamala. And in my opinion, and we just saw it with Jasmine Crockett. When Jasmine Crockett made the Governor Hot Wheels fucking joke, she got pulled in and she got chastised and she got told, this isn't who we are. This isn't who Democrats are. They need a complete change of their mentality and how they deal with stuff, or else they are fucked. You cannot have this idea that you're going to convince Republicans to vote for a left-wing individual regardless of how bad their candidate is. The most you can hope for is that they won't vote at all. And Donald Trump did a terrific job of scaring the fuck out of white people. These brown people are coming for everything you love. They're stealing your jobs. They're fucking taking your kids' place at school. They're eating your lunch. Like, they're like murdering your friends, your kids. Like, white people everywhere were like, holy shit. It's a real invasion. And it shows in the poll numbers. It shows in the poll numbers. It ain't black people's fault. They fucking voted. They came out and voted hard. But, like, I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, you know, I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking of the Liz Cheney thing. That kind of shit is just, it's anathema to me. I don't understand it. I'll never be able to understand it. Tomorrow night you're playing music on your channel? Yeah, I'll come by and check it out. I am streaming, but I'll come by after my stream and check it out for sure. 2 special guests! Dude, you guys should be checking out Diane Russell's channel, just so you guys know. I want you guys to know that. I want you guys to know, if you are not checking out Diane Russell's super dope ass music, Diane Russell's not a troll, dog. Go to her, check her out, her stream, especially tomorrow when she's playing. Go check that shit out and watch it. It's amazing. I love watching Diane play music. Unselfishness is a luxury that everyone doesn't have. Yeah, I agree with that. It's so asymmetrical. Republicans get to be nasty as fuck to everyone, and Democrats get chastised by their own party for pushing back with a fraction of that energy. That's why no one likes liberals. Pinkerbell, 100%. That's what I'm fucking saying. And just so you guys know, that's why I think you guys don't need babysitting in the chat. You guys should learn to fight. You guys should learn to argue. You guys should learn to say mean shit every once in a while. It's okay. It's all right. Just remember, when you're fighting with people on your own side, that is, you're just destroying any kind of solidity that you have. But I do think the left needs more practice in the fight. They need to get their hands dirty. Enough of this fucking when they go low, we go high bullshit. You're not going to survive in a dirty fight by playing by the rules. There has never been a time where somebody comes in and just acts and cheats and fucking does all the worst shit, and the other person is just like the most honorable person of all time and wins. That's movie shit. That's fucking fantasy. It's science fiction. In real fucking life, if you want to participate, if you want to compete, if you want to be able to deal with a fucking bully, you're not going to kill him with kindness. You are not going to defeat him with etiquette. You are only going to make that motherfucker go away when you punch him in the face. I learned that when I was a kid and I was really fucking small and people fucked with me all the time. And the guy that became my best friend said, "Why do you take that shit? Just punch him in the face." And I said, "That kid's going to kick my ass." And he's going to kick your ass. It doesn't matter. But at least you get to fucking punch him back and maybe they'll go make him go away. And you know what? I haven't stopped punching motherfuckers in the face since then. Because at the end of the day, whether it's verbally or it's physically, I'm not letting you come in my fucking house and just fucking bully me around because I'm the better, higher ground person. No, you come in my house, you talk shit, you get your ass whooped. And if I get my ass whooped while trying to whoop your ass, it's all right. Because I can take an ass whooping. And I'll come back mad. You got to know that, man. That's why I was telling you guys, I'm not going to babysit you guys. I'm not going to babysit people in chat. Like, you guys want to fight, you guys can fight. That's what I'm telling my mods. If they're going to fight, let them fight. There are rules. We don't want people calling people pedos. We don't want people saying they're going to come to their house and do shit to them. Simple rules. Other than that, fucking fight it out. I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and look, 5 Alarm is a new mod. So 5 Alarm is learning his place and learning how to do it. But that's my channel. My channel has always been a channel where the left needs to come to learn to get a bit tougher. I ain't going to protect you, and my mods should not be doing that either. The left needs to grow thicker skin and realize that if a right-wing person is talking shit, you get to talk shit back. You get to talk, that's the way it is. You aren't contributing anything. See, this is what I'm saying, though, Silent. Like, I don't know. I'm not watching you guys. But at the end of the day, y'all should just let them fucking fight. Silent, let them fight. 5 Alarm, let them fight. All right, here, let me just fucking say this. Let them fucking fight. I don't think I'm going to have to say that again, right? Let them fight. Y'all get to say whatever you want. For sure, you guys can go back and forth. I don't give a fuck about all that. But all I'm saying is, if you don't like something and it's hurting your feelings too fucking much, block that person. If you don't block them, mod shouldn't be stepping in to do anything about it. That's the way it is. Scott's a grown-ass man. Scott can do his shit. Max is a grown-ass man. He can do his shit. If you can't, then block the motherfucker. Thank you, 5 Alarm. I appreciate you guys. I want my mods to know I love you guys and I appreciate you guys. But this is a growing experience for the left. We're growing. We're getting better. We're getting thicker skin. We're getting stronger. I mean, I've always been this asshole, but Friday Night Fight. All right, good job. Yeah, you guys don't need to play cop. You know what I'm saying? I feel you guys. I love you guys for trying to be those people. But, like, at the end of the day, let them fucking go. Stan is God. All right. Here, let's play a little bit more of this video. I got to go do shit. It's Friday night. I got to go have some tequila.
But, like, dude,
water.
Dearborn, Michigan voted for
All
her.
I got is water right now.
That's the largest Arab American voting bloc in the U.S.
I mean, maybe they shouldn't have, like, overseen a fucking genocide for... Yeah.
So, see, this is what I'm saying. That response is what drives me nuts. Because I agree with the dude that what Israel did after the initial defense was going way too fucking far. Way too far. Innocent civilians, women, children do not deserve to die. Okay? But saying, well, too bad for the Democrats, they shouldn't have defended this going on, that's why they lost. That's not even taking into account the fucking number of, say, Jewish people then that maybe wouldn't have voted for Kamala if she spoke out against it, right? Like, it's a very simplistic and reductive thing to say. And what I wish people would just fucking say is, yeah, I did not stand in support of what Israel was doing to Palestine. However, I understood because I have two fucking brain cells that when they rubbed each other rubbed themselves together. I'm fucking running out of energy. When they rub against each other, can produce a actual thought that Donald Trump was always going to be the worst possible scenario for Gaza. He always was. If you're telling yourself right now that Kamala Harris was going to do what Donald Trump has so far, hopefully he doesn't follow through on, but has suggested he's going to do, I don't know what the fuck to say, man. Like, you have this like idea in your head of who Kamala Harris is that I just don't agree with. I can show you my document. I have a 12-page fucking document of research that I did on Kamala Harris to make the decision to vote for Kamala Harris. Because I was not sure. I come from California. I had all the same fucking ideas about who she was. She puts drug dealers in jail, which is also kind of just dumb for me to be against, like, people that are actually like felons that were doing that shit. But I was like, she's putting just people with weed in their pocket in jail. That makes me upset. She did all these other things that Tulsi Gabbard accused her of in these debates. And instead of just saying, I'm not going to vote for Kamala Harris because of these things, I said, I need to make sure that I'm right. I need to look at these things that I believe about Kamala Harris, and I need to know that I shouldn't vote for Kamala. And what I learned was the same thing you learn almost every time you look into half the shit that politicians tell you, is that it was bullshit. Kamala Harris is actually one of the more progressive candidates that we have. Kamala Harris is more progressive than I am. Kamala Harris was anti-death penalty. I'm anti-death penalty, but there's at least two types of people I believe should get that. They should get that smoke. I could be convinced differently, as I've said before, but like, my wife tried with the life of David Gale and it didn't move me. It moved me a little bit, but not the whole way. I still believe in certain occasions. But really, this idea of like, well, they deserved what they got. Like, it's like, fuck you, man. We deserve that shit. My wife deserves that shit. My daughter deserves that shit. All the people that were fired deserve that shit. The veterans deserve that shit. Like, how fucking condescending can you possibly be to be that person to be like, well, you guys deserve that shit? That's the problem with the left, is when you stand there and look a person dead off in the face and be like, this is your fault, not mine. Like, fuck, no wonder why we're fractured. Holy shit. All you have to do, it's not that fucking hard. All you have to do is go, you know what? Actually, you're kind of right. Trump was way worse. I fucking wish that we had voted and got Kamala into the office over Trump. That's all. You don't have to say that you support her. You don't have to say that you believe that the shit she's doing is okay. You just have to not say, I told you so. Like, I don't know. Fucking... Latinos for Trump now. I am so ashamed. Yeah, Latinos also came out pretty hard for Trump, which is fucking crazy. That's so crazy. Yeah, and now Trump is kidnapping Muslims and trying to deport them. I'm fucking trying to say, thank you, Nina. It just drives me nuts when somebody drops that kind of shit. Like, this attitude. Wait, what are you guys saying? Delicate is your watchword. That's why you've shadowed anyone's with disagreement, coward. Alti, who are you talking to, dog? What are you talking about, Alti? Let's see. You should remove subs only on Friday. What is that? Okay, I'm so lost right now. Troy is not Bob Cox. Bob Cox is an actual troll. I've told you guys before. You guys can't say everybody that doesn't agree with you is a Trump supporter. That's another thing the left fucks up. I've told you guys this forever with Redonk. He's a Trump supporter. He fucking voted for Ron Paul. Like, that's another problem on the left is we sometimes want to just like everybody we don't like is that person. But that's not always true. You guys know I don't believe that shit. I mean, you guys can believe whatever the fuck you want. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. You guys know that's my show. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm just here to tell you what I believe. And that is there are people that are Trump supporters. There are libertarians that actually voted for Chase Oliver. Look, if you're a libertarian and you voted for Chase Oliver, even though I think most of your ideas are stupid, I'm like, I support you. Okay? Because at least you're 10 toes down. Bob Cox is an actual troll, though. Bob is my troll. Manny, my fucking friend got detained and he's not from Venezuela, El Salvador, nor anywhere from Latin America and is a born citizen. It's a chilling effect, fear taxes. Yeah, exactly, Manny. This is what I'm saying. Like, you fucking Latinos voting for Trump is insane. But here's the thing. I also know why. I know why. Because, like I said, this is why you have to be better about this shit. This is why the left has to be better about this shit. They need to not just say it's fucked up that Latinos voted for Trump. You got to figure out why they did. And then you got to figure out whether or not it's at least partially your fault. And I've said this, a fan has gotten me to watch, a video on stream about young men. And when we look at the numbers and the polls of young men, the easiest thing to say is, well, young dudes are stupid, okay? Young dudes are dumb. Yeah, okay, easy cop-out. Easy cop-out to say that. But if you want to fucking win, and even fuck that, even not win, if you just want the world to be a better place, you got to do a little more work than just saying, yo, young dudes are dumb. Of course they voted for Trump. No, like there's pathways. There's ways to help young men get brought to a better educated stance on things. And it's not by just calling them dumb. So I think that when we talk about Latinos for Trump, we got to figure out what the fuck made them want to do it. Was it because Trump is fucking gets out there and insults people? Is it because Trump has machismo? Is it because Trump set a good game? Who was it I was watching the other day? It was Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi Hasan said, I want the next Democratic candidate to do what Trump did. I want him to just come out there. I want him to just say to everybody, I'm going to raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour. He's like, why not? Because that's what Trump did. People out there that were like, nah, he's going to make America great again. He's going to make us all wealthy. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so good. Yeah, anybody that has a logical mind or is capable of critical thinking was like, what the fuck? Are you dumb? But that's what appealed to those people. And Mehdi Hasan was right. And not only is Mehdi Hasan right about that, but I'm going to take it one fucking step further. The next Democratic president that runs for office should not only say that the fucking minimum wage is going to get raised to $30 an hour, he needs to get in office, or she needs to get in office, and then shove that shit through the fucking system. Because Donald Trump has set the bar really fucking high now. The shit he's doing is bad. The shit he's doing is dumb. The shit he's doing is destroying the country. But people are like, he's trying to do stuff. You know? That's what I'm saying. Is like fucking, like, it might have to be that. It might have to be that. Media's son better keep his passport on him. That's not wrong, Max. That's not wrong. Media's son better watch that ass. Shit, I have to keep a to-go bag on me. Are you kidding me? Fucking, I'm going to be deported right along with him. Somebody has said, one of my employees today was asking me if she could get 3 weeks off of vacation. And I go, 3 weeks off? Where are you going? And she was like, Japan. And I was like, oh, you better be careful. Like, trying to get back in the country might be difficult. And she laughed. And then I was like, I want to go to Japan. And she was like, maybe you'll get to go someday or something. I was like, nah, they'll definitely deport my ass. I will 100% get caught at the fucking gate and sent the fuck back. 100%. No chance. Oh, dude. I'm so done. Oh. Alright, let's go back into the big me. We're not going to get to watch the rest of the video. I started ranting. That's what happened. See, you guys got me fucking... I lost that game. As soon as I lost the game, I lost interest. And you see what happens? Then I ADHD my way through this fucking conversation. Now I'm out in left field talking about getting deported and shit. Alright. Well, I am, and you should, going to enjoy the rest of my Friday night. Like I said, all of us need to realize something, and that is, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon, okay? So, everybody's got to realize there's going to be moments where, you know, you feel feel real hype, and there's going to be moments where you feel fucking drained. You're going to feel irritable. You're going to feel shitty. But it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, we got to keep our shit together. Don't fall for this mass psychosis bullshit. It's part of the plan. It's part of how they get you. And remember that we really, really do need to work on some of this shit that we have flaws. We need thicker skin. We need an ability to fight back. We don't need a nanny state. We need to grow that spine and stand up for ourselves. That's the way it is. So, I know that shit gets a little bit hot in chat sometimes. I know that sometimes people want to give up and give in. But I don't know about you guys. I'm going to guess you do. I got people I care about. I got people that depend on me. And I can't give up. All right, guys. Tomorrow, my friends, tomorrow, we'll watch Trump shit. Tomorrow, we'll watch Titus. Tomorrow, we'll catch up on all the bullshit going down. Is there another big protest? Oh, yeah, all the people are... I thought it was Sunday. Is it tomorrow? I thought it was Sunday protest. If the big protests happen tomorrow, we'll for sure cover that. It makes sense because Sunday is Easter, and it's the day that Hitler comes back from the dead because it's his birthday and it's Easter. Oh, God, that if there is ever a time when the portal opens and the gates of hell come down on Earth, it's going to be the day that Easter and Hitler's birthday happen at the same time. That's not what you guys thought was going to be said, but that's the goddamn truth. All right, guys. So tomorrow, we're back. We're going to do some politics. I'm going to continue to try to do these streams with you guys. We'll see how long I can do it. I'm an old man. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And I hope to see you tomorrow.